FanDome. Oh. Allora, mettiamola più piccola magari. Lo spostiamo qui. Parapapà, papapà, parapapà. Sì, beh, è finita pure. Sempre in italiano, ok. Sì, che dobbiamo fare? Live. Ecco, live. Ah, siamo in live. Ciao! Sono in diretta! Ci sono riuscito. Datemi feedback poi se si sente bene. Ma che è qua? Ma che è? Stream della Last of Us? Ma non è vero, non è della Last of Us. Non è della Last of Us. Non è della Last of Us. Vabbè, è rimasto della Last of Us. Mi rimetto qui. No, c'erano i sottotitoli, mi sa. Sì, è iniziato adesso. E... ah, ecco. Muy feliz! Che caldo, ragazzi. Tu c'è Batman, io c'ho Superman. Hai capito? La tipa con la maglietta viola. Ciao, sono Andrea. Insomma, in tutte le lingue. Però... super pompato. Ma che... sì, ma è troppo... in ritardo. Vabbè. Ammazza, quanti sono tanti, non so che cosa dirano. Tirano di tutte e di più oggi. No, la serie TV di Watchmen non l'ho vista. Non sapevo manco che ci stava. Il film sì. Si sente bene, Fra? E un po' se si sente bene. Se senti anche qui. E beh, e beh. Momoa. Shazam! Supergirl. Green Hornet. Quello non mi ricordo chi era. Pollice! Insomma, tanta roba, eh. Mamma mia, guarda qua. Bella Wonder Woman. Che entrata spettacolare. Ecco. Buon dia. Meraviglioso. Il video non lo senti?
Hey Jenkins!
Ecco. Adesso lo senti.
So happy.
Hi Betty, how are you?
What an incredible way to engage with the fans. We had such a good time in Brazil. We had so much fun that we're super excited to be back together in a new and interesting way, but super happy to be here.
Of course, you've brought more people with you and some faces we did not get to see in Brazil, right Betty?
That's right. I can't wait to have them here.
The one and only Steve Trevor, Mr. Chris Pine.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So great to have you, and we wouldn't want to do this without Wonder Woman's new nemesis. So let's welcome Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Hi Patty. Hi Chris.
But this film has not one, but two villains. So let's bring in the Max Lord, Pedro Pascal, please. Come on in.
Hola. Nice to be here. Hi, everybody.
And of course, it's time now for us to welcome Wonder Woman herself, Gal Gadot.
God, guys, I miss you so much. This is so crazy. This is how
It's
Cool.
long.
We miss
Great to
you.
see you again.
my Wonder Woman mates.
I just invented this in the moment. I just
That's
wanted to know.
great.
It's
That's
like
good,
my own.
Pedro.
Wait.
Tutti, oh.
We'd love to hear questions from the fans and interact with the fans, and we're
Wonder
excited to hear from everybody today.
Well, it's been 8 months since we met in Brazil, and we know how long that is in fan time. So, we're waiting for a DC superhero movie to come out, especially one with this character who is so beloved all around the world, right, Patty, Gal?
I really think the movie is it's so great on the big screen. We all worked so hard to bring something that would be a big visual, spectacular, great time. So we're gonna stick it out. We believe in, putting it in the cinema, but I can't wait for you all to see more today. We're gonna show a little more, and I can't wait for the movie to come out soon.
Totally. And at least we're also, as much as we want to share the movie with the world, at least we figure out creative ways to communicate with our beloved, most amazing fans. And this is a great opportunity for us to say hello and to thank them and to share something from the movie.
We received so many fan questions. I wish you could get to all of them, but there just isn't time enough in these short 24 hours. So let's start with a video question from Adam in Malaysia. Let's take a look.
Hi DC FanDome, I'm Adam from Malaysia and I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. So my question is, since we're transitioning from World War I to the 1980s, what kind of inspirations that you took to create new and updated costumes for the characters? I hope everybody's having a blast and I can't wait to see the movie. Bye!
Oh, so sweet. It's a great question because when we did the last movie in 1917, 1918, it was an interesting process where you both have to kind of acclimate yourself to the period and make it very normal to yourself, and then make things look the way you want them to look within that context. So Diana always has great taste and always looks elegant. Gal and I had an amazing time finding the most elegant but really grounded things. And Kristen and I had such a great time going back in our memory, remembering what a character like that would dress like, and like the details of it.
Yeah, Lindy Hemming is kind of a genius, really.
She is a
and the
genius.
way that she started to show me, in my experience, these horrifying power suits from the 1980s, and the way that she ended up, I was like, there's just no way I'm gonna look like a fool, like in this 80s stuff, and she was able to make something so sort of animated and specific and feel and be completely stylish and feel like $1 million and serve the purpose of what it was. I was in awe of all of her image boards and how she collaborated. It was really incredible.
But
Yeah.
let's go to our next
they are.
question, which is a video question from Kiara in Japan.
Hi, my name is Kiara from Tokyo, Japan. I love you so much, Gal. What was it like working all together, and do you have any funny stories behind the scenes? Thanks for answering my questions. I love you guys so much.
Oh my God,
Sì, vabbè, diciamo che i sottotitoli stanno un pochino
And your
poco arretrati.
energy and the jumping, it was so
Però vabbè,
full of energy.
comunque sono tutti innamorati di lei. Questa mi sa che ha fatto Wonder Woman.
We
no?
had an
Sbaglio.
amazing time working together, and there's something so well. Catherine is like the drama queen. No, I'm just kidding.
Sì, è lei.
But we had such an amazing time, and
Sì, è lei,
and
lei.
we got lucky that
Gal
we
Gadot.
we all have such
Come chiama
great
Gal?
chemistry, and we
Ma poi
all
non una mamma, può
adore
chiamarla
and
Gal.
love each other.
Bellissima,
My favorite
dolcissima.
thing about the
anche-
shoot was
penso
you
sia un nome
guys
ebraico,
were
perché poi
so
dicevo ebraico,
delightful to me on set, and then everybody became super great friends. And I would have to stay and work, and you guys would be off there having a good time, and I'm trying to pay attention to the camera, and I'm like, hey, guys, hey, oh. You guys coming back with music videos, and everybody's laughing so hard. I mean, that was the most unusual thing to me, to feel like I'm making a film in the middle of like the funniest
Yeah,
environment.
all the cool kids were going off to the mall, and you had to stay after school.
I had to stay after
That's
school
fun.
watching it longingly. It was so funny.
Our next question, I just can't believe it, but we have a massive DC fan here. I think maybe some of you may recognize. Take it away, Venus.
Hi, it's Venus from Miami, so I'm a huge fan. I have a question. So, who would win in a tennis match between Wonder Woman and Cheetah? And do you think they'll ever be able to put away their differences and team up for doubles?
I think both of you would overcome your differences to play doubles against her. You guys against each other.
I think Cheetah would win.
Really?
Now,
Because Wonder Woman would have she'd have a gold tennis racket to go with everything, and it would just be too heavy, and I'm fast, and I just think I would win.
Very subjective. That's your perspective, and it's okay. I disagree with you on this one, but let's agree to disagree.
Well, then I'll see you on the court.
Okay, so now we're going to Poland with Mina, who has a question for Pedro. Does Pedro Pascal know how much he is loved and appreciated by his fans?
Oh.
yeah. Do I know it? I love it, and I appreciate it, and it holds me up through the tough times like these. And I don't know, I'm just so grateful that question exists, basically.
Next up is a question
Sì,
from
perché quello
Salma
è
in the US
Chris
for
Pine,
Chris.
Chris Payne, Steve Trevor.
Hi, Chris. I'm so happy and so
Chris,
excited
saludos.
for your return to Wonder Woman 1984. My question to you is, how does it feel to be the fish out of water in the 80s from your return, now having Diana Prince guide you around?
Yeah, that interest and curiosity, I would say it was kind of like it was a good lesson for me as a human being to remind myself to open up and not be so cool, not be so over everything. And, and my job again is to be in love with Gal, which is not a hard gig, and try to make her giggle, which is always fun.
He does so much more than that, but I like that you always sum it up that way.
Now we have a video questions for everyone from Erin Lynch in the US.
Hi, my name is Erin, and I just wanted to know what was your most memorable moment on set. Thank you. I love you.
Yeah.
We love you back.
I know what mine is.
Uh-oh.
When Gal and I were fighting. Well, I mean, the characters were fighting.
Yeah.
And we were practicing this stunt, and we like got it down, and it was great, and it was going really well. And she like grabbed my hair, I think, and wig just like came.
Grab it. It got stuck in my gun.
Oh, it got stuck in your thing, and I don't know if we were tired or also it was just we laughed so hard.
Mine was in Washington. I mean, the fact that we'd shut down all of Pennsylvania Avenue to make this huge film. The little 8-year-old kid in you is can't believe that you're doing what you're doing and that you get the privilege of doing it. I don't know. It feels like a dream in some kind of way. Like you're stepping into the fantasy of playing make believe on this scale in all the films that you ever wanted to be in as a kid. So that was a pretty special moment, I think.
Can I change my answer?
Yes.
That was so beautiful.
We've got one last question from a very special guest.
Oh my God!
You look so beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, Linda, look at you.
Linda, everybody, Linda Carter, the reason that we're all here.
Credo sia
Hello, Chris. Hello, Patty. Hello, Gal. Hello,
Mama Bear.
Chris, Pedro. Oh my God, Gal. Hello, you beautiful woman.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
So
It's such a delightful surprise to have you here.
Thank
This is
you.
so great.
I'm so glad we think about you
Sì,
every day,
lei-
Linda, and we
Linda
talk
Carter
about you all the
sarebbe
time. So it
praticamente-
would not, this would not be a Wonder
Mamma
Woman
mia.
panel, truly,
La
if we
Wonder
didn't see your
Woman
face. So
degli
it's so good
anni-
to see you. So good to have you.
I'm so excited. I've never met you. I watched your show when I was younger. I had Wonder Woman under
Del
ruse,
51,
and
l'età di mia madre,
I'm
questo.
so excited to meet you.
Kristen?
Yes. I was also Wonder Woman for Halloween when I was a little girl. I mean, I'm like so excited to meet you.
Kristen, I think you're so great. So we have a mutual admiration. And anytime when I meet you, will you do me a favor? Will you just throw your arms around me?
Yes, I would wish I could right now.
I'm beyond excited. I'm beyond excited. You know that I have been a fan from day one of Patty's when she was first attached to this film. When my daughter saw Gal as Wonder Woman, she said, "Mom,
Gli anni
I
70,
finally get it.
Gli anni 70.
I finally understand
La Wonder Woman degli anni
why
70.
everyone idolizes you. I finally get what Wonder Woman means to everyone. You know? And that's my daughter. That's my flesh and blood. So thank you, Gal. Thank you, Patty.
That's such a great story. Thank you, Linda. That's such a great story. And like the first time I ever called you, Linda, I said to you, I want you to know
Dolcissimi,
we're not here to reinvent Wonder Woman, and we're not here to do a new chapter of Wonder Woman. We just hope to take the torch and pass it forward. And so that means the world to me, because I was that person who was so moved by you and your performance and the show, the beautiful show that you guys did. So being able to know that somebody as important as your daughter acknowledged that we could be having that effect on her is like a huge compliment.
You are a true life Wonder Woman, and I can't be more grateful to have your guidance and to be able to call you Mama Bear. And knowing your children now, thank you for everything that you've done personally for me, and I'm sure to the world. And this thing is whole because you're here.
Oh.
Love you, Linda.
We love you, Linda.
So.
Yeah.
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 Whoop, whoop.
We also had some submissions from fans that sent us pictures of their cosplays and fan art.
Oh my God.
I love that one.
Yes.
Exactly like having Linda here. It's like the classic. Like, who doesn't love to see
The star pants, they're so cool.
gorgeous?
Super
Proud
sexy.
of her.
Rocking it.
I know she looks amazing.
I love
Yes.
Yeah.
When men do that.
Yeah.
I love when I see people like a man or different people do Wonder Woman because it really does go to the core of like we are all
Dai,
Wonder
Wonder Woman
Woman and that
maschile
armor
no, ma
can
che
mean
cos'è?
something different on all these different people and
Sì,
that's a
lei è veramente
great
la prima
Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman.
costume. I love it.
I love the
Rocking it.
armband.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
One because I felt like
Wow, this is from the first one.
yeah, the recreation on the beach and everything
I thought
like
that was your stunt double.
caught the spirit. Like beautiful work, beautiful detail. So
Look at that shield. Oh my gosh.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
It looks exactly like the original one.
Oh.
It's like the Norman Rockwell of
Look,
Wonder
that
Woman
cute.
things, and so perfect because it's exactly why we're all here. It's like
Look at the shoes she's wearing.
I know, so
Always
The
what
red
makes me
heels.
emotional about this character that, like, you know, we were talking numerous times about the fact that, you know, we've seen so many male superheroes, but we haven't seen enough female superheroes. And for girls, for little girls, once they see it, they believe it, you know? So for little girls to be exposed to these type of movies, whether if it's Wonder Woman or any other female-driven movie in this genre, is so important because then, you know, it's so empowering. I love this piece of art.
this is such a gorgeous graphic one.
Yeah, I think I posted this one.
Yeah, I love the beautiful, you know, like a different culture being brought to a hero because it is so universal. And so I love seeing different people take it on and turn it, you know, bring it into something so personal to them. And it's just beautiful art too.
I love the bracelets.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
I thought this was such a great one.
Oh
because
my gosh, that's so
I just love the spirit of, you know, maybe this is Nubia, you
Yeah.
know, and I love that it's the
Nubia.
different Wonder Woman characters, and it's a beautiful piece of work, and yeah, beautiful art.
Before we wrap up, Patty, before we say goodbye, I know, and more importantly, the fans here know that you wouldn't have come to the
Grande
DC
Sparta.
fandom without a
Benvenuto.
little something extra for them, right?
Usa la
That's right,
dignità
guys.
adesso,
We
però,
are
vabbè.
so excited to get to be here and see everybody and get to talk to everybody and answer questions for everybody. But it wouldn't quite be a good fan event if we didn't share a little something back. So we have our second official trailer to show you guys right now.
This world is not yet ready for all that you will do. The time will come, Diana. And everything will be different.
Citizens of the world, I'm here to change your life. Anything you want, anything you dream of, you can have it. Looked like you saw a ghost. Diana, look at you. It's like not one day has passed.
I don't want to be like anyone. I want to be an apex predator. You've always had everything, while people like me have had nothing. Well, now it's my turn. Get used to it.
I've never been one for rules. The answer is always more.
The way I fly, they will never find us.
I forgot to tell you.
What?
Radar.
Will they shoot at us?
Barbara, what did
so keen on this one. I figure you are, but you know what? I'm ready to go.
I think we can do better.
Parachute pants?
Yeah.
Does everybody parachute now?
Quando? Non lo dico.
That was great.
That was amazing. Thank you, Patty, for this. Thanks.
Okay,
Can't wait
and
to share more.
Pat, I think you have, as they say, dropped the mic.
Comunque, non ti sei perso granché. Oltre ad essere rosso come un peperone, questi sono, diciamo, il cast del film di Wonder Woman, che dovrà uscire prossimamente, il nuovo Wonder Woman. Loro sono il cast. E ci sono state delle persone che hanno fatto delle domande, e in più hanno fatto ritornare la vecchia Wonder Woman del 1970 a salutare. Niente di che, cioè, tutte interviste per adesso. Noi qualcosa di più concreto.
Literally cannot wait for this film to hit the big screen. I'm so excited to be hanging out with all of you today here in the DC FanDome. I'm a huge fanboy myself, and together we are the reason comic books are published. We are the reason superhero movies and TV shows are made. So today, it's all about us, the fans. In fact, to celebrate you and your fandom, we are highlighting your art submissions and creative cosplay. Take a look at this art from some incredibly talented fans.
Beh, Wonder Woman è Wonder Woman, eh? Heroes fan art. Ok, vediamo un po' di Amsterdam. Wonder Woman ad Amsterdam. Carina. Aquaman e Mera, Batman. Bella quella, mi piace un casino. Bella quella. Zimbabwe. Francia. Media. Oddio, non erano delle vecchie pubblicità.
I am going to do her mini jumps as I can do in a minute.
I'm not really a sporty person. I can fly. I do running and things.
My mask has cat ears and it covers my nose. Yeah.
I do running. Do.
I run and then I jump off. Oh. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to see how many hops I can do.
Are there any gamers out
Sta
there?
intro alternativa, insomma.
I can't hear you. That's more like it. Now, I think it's safe to assume that the gamers
Tutti
are
con Wonder
sitting on
Woman,
the edge of
comunque,
their
tutti
gaming
innamorati
chairs
di Wonder
right
Woman.
now, glued to their screen and
Solo del
twitching
fatto che
with
i sottotitoli
excitement
non
for our
sono
first
in,
big Warner Brothers games announcement. So, to
in
tell us
linea con
more
la
about it,
loro
please
voce,
welcome
quindi
Billy
traducono
Batson's alter ego,
2 giorni dopo,
Zachary
insomma.
Levi.
Hello, interwebs. It's Zachary Levi, your favorite household Shazam. Many of you guys know I like me some
Shazam.
video games. I'm a
Ma
gamer
guarda i
ever since
foglietti
I
che
was a
c'ha
little kid,
questo.
which means I'm very excited to be revealing a brand new video game from Warner Brothers Games. We're going to meet the creative team in just a moment, but first, some brand spanking new footage from said game. We're about to play it right now for all of us. I've never seen it, so we're going to experience this together. Let's take a
Parlando
look.
di videogiochi, vediamo un po'. Oh!
In breaking news, we've received reports of an
Dai, fateci vedere qualcosa, aspettate. Siamo al volume.
Any victims. This story is evolving rapidly. Please bear with us.
We heard this really loud boom. There was smoke everywhere.
Emergency services have confirmed that they've discovered a body buried in the wreckage. We're still waiting for further details.
Emergency vehicles are on
that a large portion of the building has actually collapsed.
An international national news, an explosion rocked Gotham City earlier today.
You're now able to confirm that billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne is...
Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, attenzione! Oh, e che cacchio, ma... Oh, Batman, attenzione! Codice nero. Sì, lui.
If you're watching this, I'm dead. This is a code black. This message was automatically triggered when I destroyed the cave and everything it contained. We both know it won't take long for Gotham's criminals to realize the Batman is gone. And you can't count on the GCPD. Haven't trusted us since Jim died. Gotham will need its protectors more than ever. I'm leaving you the Belfry as base of operations. Some of the technology is outdated, but it has the gear you need and all of my files. You've always had my back when I needed you. I know you'll keep Gotham safe.
Ti lascio lo spazio campanile.
Good luck. And goodbye.
Quindi lascia il carico a Robin. Tutti la sua bomba. Tipo 4. Sciotta nel capito, guarda che robetta, ecco, poi c'è lei. Ha fatto il giorno. Però se mi metti questo personaggio, che fai bello. Mi fai dedurre che li possa usare tutti e 4 o perlomeno giocarci in cooperativa.
No one talks about them. Not a whisper word is said. For if you try to cross them, then the town strikes you dead.
I'm Patrick Redding.
I'm Fleur Marty.
We're both from Warner Brothers Games Montreal, and we're both thrilled to finally be able to show you Gotham Knights.
You may be wondering why we chose to tell this story and focus on these characters.
We wanted to shake up the status quo of Gotham City. We wanted to see what happens when you take away the safety of Batman's presence and then find out what happens. What happens when these heroes, the Bat Family, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Robin have to step up and take on the role of new protectors of Gotham.
What's really exciting about Gotham Knights is that you, the player, will be able to grow these characters how you see fit. You get to see how you would step up and become Gotham's protector. You're not trying to become the new Batman. You're becoming your own badass superhero.
And as a bonus, we brought gameplay footage. This is captured in engine from a recent build. And we just can't wait for you to see this. Take a look.
Take a look. Non si vede quasi niente, non so, mi vedete molto scuro, ma accenderò fra poco perché purtroppo io ho l'ombra a una certa ora. Cosa ci fate vedere? E di che? Anzi, fai bene a chiedere perché possiamo rispondere, ecco. Questi sono tutti i personaggi che li hanno ripresi dal fumetto e li hanno poi
Belfry, Elliott Center is covered in ice. Whatever's causing this is localized at the top.
Quindi pure il gameplay? Anche il gameplay.
That's what the bike's for.
Robin joined the session. Insomma, è entrato nella sessione, quindi probabilmente
All units at Elliott Center. Air support inbound. Hostiles opening fire on upper floors. Air support, can you do a fly around?
Quello blu non manco so che se fosse il figlio o meno di Batman. Ma quello rosso non credo sia, c'ha un altro nome. Perché non me lo ricordo, tipo Deathstroke, però sono tutte l'alleanza di Batman. Non credo però se lui è cooperativa o è computer. I livelli, quindi ci sarà per forza l'aumento dei livelli. Batman here. C'è un ciago fantastico. No, ma che cos'è?
Montoya here. Heard you're down there having some fun. Fun's one word for it. Just a heads up, that chopper's under orders to fire on anything that moves inside.
Oddio che domanda, è il boy. Belli ragazzi che vi salutate tutti. Siete carini e coccolosi. Allora, il boy credo sia possibile.
The storm is getting worse. You need to hurry and find a way inside Elliott Center.
The GCPD chopper made that part easy.
Sì. Sì. Sì, il boy è sempre di sì.
This doesn't look up to
Sì,
code.
dalla DC Comics. Sì. 1999. In breve tempo.
If anyone asks, I meant to do that.
I won't say a word.
Perché non è neanche DC, però è stato DC per 2 numeri, quindi
Tours were still going on when Freeze came through.
se lo vogliamo
Those poor people.
chiamare
They didn't stand a chance.
il boy quello con le corna rosse fantastico. Questo qua
This will only take a second.
vi fa vedere mentre lui fa quello lei fa questo, quindi no, non t'ho preso niente. No, è arrabbiata.
No precision. time to take the elevator.
You'd rather take the stairs?
These cables on the floor, guaranteed they lead to freeze. Belfry, status.
Countless dead, and the temperature's still falling.
We need to stop this.
Ho avuto problemi
now.
però a creare capelli fluidi, non ci riusciranno mai a farli.
Almost there.
Tipo come la pompa Ryder, cioè non credo proprio specifica caratteristica del motore di
I
gioco.
see the weather machine. Ready with the disruptor.
That thing's drawing so much power.
Field disruptor's in place. It's charging.
Get away from my storm engine.
È famoso.
Is that what you're calling it?
Dottor Gelo.
You don't want to be alone
Rise.
when this disruptor goes off. Trust me.
Irrelevant. I already have what I need. The storm has risen over Gotham. Nothing can stop it.
We'll see about that.
You cannot run from me.
Luca, lo sgasa è il tuo supereroe DC preferito tra quelli che conosci? Ovviamente.
You will not stop me.
Veramente Robin non mi ha mai fatto impazzire così tanto, poi vabbè, su gusto. Poi dipende poi dai film, perché io sono i film. Metti, non è che l'abbia letto, quindi. Due facce. Però due facce è un villain, è un cattivo. I supereroi invece proprio dei buoni, così dire, diciamo.
That was amazing!
Oh.
That was so good! That was so good. Thank you so much, Patrick and Flora, for giving us this insight, all this info. I, for one, can't wait to play it. I'm sure everybody at home can't wait to play it. Speaking of everyone at home, before you take off, if that's okay, we'd like to answer a few fan questions. Yeah, cool. Here we go. Callum from the UK asks, what has driven you the most in the direction of this game?
Wow. Well, I'd say really there have been kind of three consistent ideas at the heart of Gotham Knights. First is having like a full cast of playable characters that can continue to grow and reinvent themselves. Second, a real living, breathing Gotham City that keeps challenging you, keeps serving up danger. And then finally, it's that fantasy of the superhero team up, and we wanted to be able to deliver that in co-op play.
Copy that. Alistair from Kenya asks, what goes into deciding which characters you are going to develop a game around?
Well, we chose characters who resonate with players on a few different axes. We wanted heroes who embodied different aspects of the Bat family. The detective side, as well as the fighter, the scourge of the underworld, the urban legend. We looked for characters that offer players a unique starting point and then a long runway for growth. Ultimately, we wanted heroes that could take on the forces that threaten Gotham City, but each bringing their own unique perspective.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we have Riley from the United States. Homegrown. Riley from the United States asks, could you give anything more on this WB Games Montreal game?
Cosa ci porterà a decidere un determinato personaggio.
We're actually sort of standing in it. The Belfry will be a very important location in Gotham Knights.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta keep a few secrets. We're gonna have more to talk about later.
We can tell you this: the mystery in Gotham Knights is way bigger than just the protocols.
Well, is there anything else that you would like us to know?
Well, our game is coming out in 2021, and we can't wait for everyone to play it.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Patrick and Flora, for sharing everything that you have. To everybody out there, I hope you've been enjoying DC FanDome. Continue to enjoy DC FanDome. I'm Zachary Levi.
Sì, però
love you.
Solo uno ne hai preso di quel foglio. Che butti tutti, vabbè.
Wow. Just wow. Honestly, I've been yearning to step in the boots of those characters for a long time. I guess dreams really do come true. And don't go anywhere, we will be back with The Flash in a flash. So unless you can be in two places at once, be sure to stay with us.
Hey everybody, I'm Tyrone Edwards, your Canadian host, and I want to know how much you're loving DC FanDome. So tweet your replies right now with the hashtag DC FanDome. I'm so excited to be a part of this global virtual experience, the only place to hear the latest announcements from DC. We've got one for you now, so let's check out what's new with Sandman from the creator himself.
Hello, DC FanDome. I am Yvette Nicole Brown, and I am so excited to be here with you for the Sandman Universe Into the Dreaming DC FanDome panel. Today, we'll be discussing the comic book series and how it's been expanded with new stories, adapted into new media, and how it continues to enthrall audiences all around the world. Let's meet our awesome panelists. As one of the most popular and critically acclaimed graphic novels of all time, Neil Gaiman's award-winning masterpiece, The Sandman, set the standard for mature lyrical fantasy in the modern comics era. It has been translated in over 15 languages and is available in over 30 territories. I am thrilled to be here with Neil Gaiman. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Matt. Lovely to see you.
Oh, you look so good in your little box. Now, Neil, you started The Sandman as a ground-up reimagining of an older DC property. At what point did you realize how much bigger the story could be? Did you know from page one, or did you find it on the way?
A bit of both. It started in 1987 when I was a 26-year-old writer, and I'd been asked to write a monthly comic for DC Comics, and all I knew was that I needed something that I could go anywhere with, that I could tell any kind of story, because I'd never had to tell a story a month before, and I didn't know if I could. So Sandman was originally imagined as something that would let me tell any kind of story I needed to tell. Probably by the end of the first year, I knew what kind of thing I was doing. And I'd say by the middle of the second year, I knew the shape of the whole story, and I knew what was going to happen. I knew who was going to live and who was going to die, more or less. And then it was a matter of just holding on tight and hoping against all hope that I actually would be able to tell that story before it got cancelled. You know, the original Sandman, the first book, Preludes and Nocturnes, is 8 issues long. And it's 8 issues long because at issue 8 was when they would call you and tell you they were cancelling.
Oh.
And that you would have, you know, you had a year, so you had 4 more issues to wrap it up. So I had, my whole plan was it was going to be an 8-issue storyline and then 4 short stories, and then obviously we'd be cancelled, except we weren't cancelled.
30 years from the original series, what's exciting to you about seeing the story continue, both in its new adaptations and in the Sandman Universe comics?
Not feeling like I made a slice of history. Because, you know, the idea that a 30-year-old comic still has relevance, that a story that's 30 years old, you know, these were your grandparents' comics, and that they can still have relevance is incredibly exciting. So that's been part of the joy of watching over the last few years the Sandman Universe stuff, where people are just taking ideas and spinning off with them and going and having fun and building them, and the joy of having people like Sai and now like Willow writing some of these amazing artists is a joy. And also I'm getting to do Sandman in different ways. I've been getting to do it working with Dirk Maggs on Audible as a giant audio drama where we've done a very direct adaptation, and we're also getting to do it now with Netflix as a slightly looser but still faithful adaptation. And so all of that is a delight, and it all makes it feel like something happening now and not like something that happened a long time ago.
The Sandman universe has a new series which started on August 4th, The Dreaming Waking Hours, and it's written by our next guest, G. Willow Wilson. G. Willow, I love your name.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi,
Ma
Yvette,
come
how
la
are you?
tieni la Nintendo
It is so
Switch
nice to
messa
meet
così
you. Now,
tra i libri?
G. Willow, you first
Tony,
came to
digli
the Sandman
qualcosa.
purely as a fan
Cioè,
in
ma
your
puoi tenere
teenage
una
years.
Nintendo Switch
What did
così?
the series mean to you at that age?
Vergogna.
You know, I first read The Sandman in the late 90s as a teenage goth, and for me, what's interesting looking back now is that by the time I read that series, it was already part of the culture, and so I was already wearing the death outfit without knowing what it was. So, you know, to pick up the series and be like, oh, this is where this comes from, was really, really interesting for me, and it had a huge impact, I think.
No, cosa è successo? Dai, dai. Ehi là, mi sta bloccando. Non va bene. Eccola là, si è bloccato tutto. No, dai. Fai il serio. Ma che cosa vuol dire? Se ci sono troppe persone connesse gli dà problemi. Dai, per favore. Niente, si è bloccato così. Ammazza, oh. Aspettiamo un attimo che te devo dire. Non capisco cos'è un fandom, vediamo se lo ritroviamo. Scusate un secondo. Nel frattempo buttiamoci in cagliara. Scusate, ma si è bloccato qua, che dobbiamo fare? Purtroppo non si può fare niente. Sì. Oddio, com'è? Arkham. Non mi ricordo manco come si chiama. Come si chiama? Si scrive Arkham Knight. Ecco. Non è manco Arkham Knight perché è. Si chiama Gotham Knights. Non è Arkham, è Gotham Knights 3. PS5, Xbox Series X e PC.
Gotham Knights game, Justice League Snyder Cut, so 5:30. Titans panel I'm not doing. Suicide Squad at 8 and the Batman panel, so I'm only doing 4 streams today.
Niente, poi questo si è bloccato perché non li... Comunque è bravo perché c'ha la stessa passione che ho io di Sword Art Online, che tante altre persone che amano Sword Art Online. E niente, la facciamo intanto così perché non riesco...
Explosion somewhere north of the city.
An explosion rocked.
If you're watching this, I'm dead. This is a cold
Tu la prenderesti a sberle? Ma chi? Chi la prenderesti a sberle? Dici chi?
This message was automatically triggered when I destroyed the cave and everything it contained. We both know it won't take long for Gotham's criminals to realize the Batman is gone.
Scusate?
And you can't count on the GCPD. Haven't trusted us since Jim died.
Devo capire se riesco. No, ho sbagliato, ragazzi. Ah, ok,
This message was automatically triggered.
I think we've done enough comic book stuff with you now, Durkee. Off you go and do some terrible comedy instead. And so that was it. We didn't do it for the BBC. And I thought that was it, game over. So it was very sad because I'd never read anything like it. And actually, I thought of all the things we were doing, and I'm very proud of our Superman and Batman. But I thought, wow, this guy is writing some interesting stuff here. Wouldn't it be great to put it in a studio? Little knowing it would take 28 years to actually get there.
Well, it was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Dirk, what was the process of taking the comic book scripts and turning them into an audio experience?
Really, the process with Neil was very easy because Neil is still alive, which is an enormous amount of help. It actually means I can talk to the author without using a Ouija board. And not only that, but the author in this case is a supremely kind, indulgent, patient man who will put up with the questions of someone who normally is just a drummer and give him intelligent replies. So it was wonderful to have Neil accessible, and the real joy was to actually get Neil's original scripts, which he wrote at the time for the artists. And one of the things about the scripts is they're kind of like the blueprint. They're kind of like the scaffolding behind the facade, which is the story. And you get into Neil's mind at the time when he's writing him, 27-year-old Neil, and what he wants to see. And what, I don't know if Neil, you knew this, but there's real poetry in your descriptions that no one but a single artist would read. Well, I know you know that now because you've been reading these descriptions as part of the narration, but really they were a piece of literary art in their own right, the script. So I had those to base things on. We'd come to the decision that we were going to stick pretty closely to the original work, because why wouldn't you? Effectively, there is nothing needs really changing. Occasionally here and there one might just, you know, touch slightly on the steering wheel, but there is nothing much you need to do. And they just rock. They totally rock. So Neil as narrator now is being Neil the writer. We're in his head, and then off the page, I'm going to extend this metaphor to snapping point, come the characters and we get this wonderful sort of sense of being inside Neil's head, the nicer part, the classy part.
The classy part. Okay, well, besides the star actors, you had to cast something like 150 other parts. Kudos to you. What was that process like, Dirk?
Well, I've got to say, our casting team, Marielle and Nicola, who were doing a lot of the casting, did a fantastic job. There are way many more parts than we could comfortably deal with in a given situation, with a studio that probably held 6 people and was really only built for 1. If you know the Marx Brothers works, you'll know there's a thing called the stateroom scene where they're trying to cram into a cupboard on a boat. Well, that's kind of how it was in this situation. I had to think of a way through this, and I thought what we need is all the very best audio voice actors in London. And London is a really good place to get voice actors because, of course, BBC still runs spoken word and drama and so on and so forth. So actors as busy as Michael and James, who was in a play at the time, you know, you're not expecting to see them. You're getting people who normally would get a marquee, who are coming in as part of the ensemble, and everybody kind of checked their egos at the door. And we ended up with a really lovely situation. There were certain episodes, like, for example, A Midsummer Night's Dream, where, yeah, okay, the temperature in the studio kind of climbed into the late 90s, but the upside was that the cast, we were pretty much doing the story from soup to nuts. So if you're in the room with them, you're watching one of Neil's greatest stories just happen in front of your eyes, with a bit of extra Shakespeare here and there. So it was a wonderful experience.
Speaking of the amazing cast, we are joined by the devilish Michael Sheen. Welcome to the panel, Michael.
Hello, Beth. How you doing?
I'm good. So happy to have you with us. So, Michael, now you are on the hot seat. How did you put your spin on Lucifer?
I mean, I remember when I first read Sandman. I'd left Wales to come down to London to go to drama school. And one of my fellow classmates at RADA, in the first few weeks, said to me, do you read comic books? And I said, no, I don't. And I thought, you know, what, like superheroes? I'm not really into all that. And sorry, DC. And he said, here we are. And he gave me some Alan Moore, you know, he gave me V for Vendetta and Watchmen and Swamp Thing and Constantine and Sandman. And I remember reading the first few Sandmans, and it just sort of, well, I mean, it did literally change my life. It gave me, it sort of both reinforced what I was already interested in, but opened doors to whole universes for the rest of my life. I mean, it created my taste, really, I suppose. It led me to finding out about Joseph Campbell and comparative mythology and Carl Jung and I mean, all kinds of stuff. It just blew my mind. And certain things really stayed with me. And one of those things was the character of Lucifer, when you first meet him early on in the story, and that kind of young Bowie look. That image had really stayed with me. So when I came to do Lucifer, that was there at the back of my mind. And I loved the idea of someone who looks very angelic. I mean, he is an angel. He's the fallen angel. And that young Bowie with the curly blonde hair is very angelic and sort of chirpy. Hello, you know, and it takes you by surprise. You're expecting Lucifer to be Lucifer. And of course, you don't have to, it's like, hello, Dream, how are you? And I love that idea of sort of surprising the audience and pulling the rug out from under their feet, which Neil is so brilliant at. And of course, the first thing I ever saw to do with the Sandman was the cover of Preludes and Nocturnes, the Dave McKean art. And even from that, I knew I was entering into a whole other world. And then, of course, getting to know Dave many years later was a bit of a dream come true.
He is such a singular talent and such a singular vision. It was weird with Sandman. I think we had this huge fight on our hands right in the very beginning when we told DC that the title character Morpheus would not be on every cover. I remember them coming back going, but how will people know this is Sandman? And we said, well, because the word Sandman will be on every cover. And having lost that battle, they never fought again. They were like, okay, well, obviously we don't know what this thing is, and they're doing things that break all the rules because you have to have the character on the cover, and they aren't. So they're just doing their thing. And it really was Dave having that fight. And also around Sandman 9, Dave refusing to be fired. Karen Berger fired him. He was in New York, and she said, we don't have time for you to do any more Sandman covers. And he said to me, I've been fired. And I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to spend the next 2 days painting the next 8 Sandman covers, and then I'm going to send them over to her, and I'll see what she says. And that's what he did. He just made the rest of the Doll's House covers. Amazing. He did all the covers and sent them over. And what was she going to do? They were brilliant.
Of course, I'd spent a fair amount of time with Neil fairly recently when we did Good Omens together. So I got used to Neil being on the other side of the camera and close to me, which I liked. But he's sort of creeping ever closer, like a game of Grandma's Clock. Is that what it's called? Where, you know, every time I look around, he's not behind the camera now. Now he's actually standing next to me in the recording studio, narrating the damn thing. I mean, if he gets any closer, we'll have to have an operation to be separated.
I love the fact that I get to work with Michael. Michael and I have been friends since 2010. And we've been working together since 2017, and just I get to just admire him as an actor more and more. And the very, very peculiar feeling of having my friend Michael standing next to me in the studio and opening his mouth, and this voice that basically belongs to David Bowie playing Lucifer coming out of his mouth. And I'm just sort of looking and going, how does he do that? How can that work? And I forget that my friend Michael is also one of the greatest actors of our age. It was an absolute delight. We were incredibly lucky at the kind of cast who came out for Dirk, and also who came out for Sandman, because we're lucky in that there are Sandman fans everywhere. And we get to punch above our weight. You know, we get to get Willow coming in and writing The Dreaming because she was a Sandman fan and she wants to write Sandman. We get Michael Sheen, we get Kat Dennings, we get these amazing people coming in and fighting to do it because they love Sandman. And we are so lucky in that.
Like we said earlier, The Sandman is in dozens of languages and has been in print continuously for over 30 years. Why do you think The Sandman not only endures, but transcends media?
For me, the answer is that I really didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know what I was meant to be doing, and I didn't know how to do it. And I did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doing it also meant that everything I was seeing, everybody I met, every thought going through my head made it onto the page. And every way that I could tell stories, I was telling stories, I was trying new things. And I think that it hasn't aged and it hasn't dated in probably the way that it should. You can absolutely see places where it's completely of its time, and you can see places where my heart was in the right place, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I think that's fine and that's forgivable, because overall, I think I, along with dozens of astonishing artists and along with people who are unsung, like Todd Klein, our amazing letterer who did miracles that then nobody notices are there, creating lettering font styles for characters like Delirium or Dream or Desire. I thought I was making something completely disposable. If I'd known I was making something that would last, I probably would have had a lot more attention, and it probably wouldn't have worked.
How about the rest of you? Why does it transcend for all of you, you think?
Like I said, it sort of changed my world, really. It gave me an introduction to things that have had a huge impact on my life and who I am today. And it led me, it is a story about stories. And as such, as Neil said, he wanted to come up with something that allowed him to tell whatever story he wanted. And because of that, it roams across time and space and through mythology and history and Shakespeare, it was such an explosion of the imagination and creativity. And yet at the same time was grounded in a real kind of edgy, earthy realism as well. So it had something for everyone, but instead of being a kind of jack of all trades, it seemed so specific. And it was just like, it's like when I, as an actor working on Shakespeare, you can literally feel your brain expanding, like your consciousness growing because of what Shakespeare does in his plays. And reading The Sandman was a similar experience for me. I could feel my consciousness getting bigger because of what was in it and what it introduced me to. And because it is about sort of primal, deep things like the dreaming, like reality and concepts like fairy, and it of course it's timeless. It's about the endless, and the story itself is endless, and so it will go on forever.
Speaking from the point of view of adapting it to another medium, what's great about it is that it's doing everything that Michael's just described. It's this enormously, the conceit of it, and I'm not using conceit pejoratively there, but the scale of the imagination, all of Neil's misspent years in libraries as a kid, all that reading is just pouring out on the page in sort of torrent, like a dump tank of ideas. And to have started this journey in audio, particularly where we're sticking very close to the originals, is great, because I know, well, we all know where it's going to go, but the journey of discovery is getting an actor. When Michael comes in and starts playing Lucifer, I'm thinking, oh, wow, I can't wait to hear where this is going to go. And of course, we have all that to look forward to, and the rest of the cast as well. So, hats off to Neil. It's an astonishing piece of work.
Willow, how about you? Why do you think The Sandman endures?
To me, what was really astonishing about Sandman, especially the first time that I read it through as a teenager, was that unexpected people were at the center of the story. I think, we're kind of taught to look to the most obvious figures to be heroes, the politicians, the famous people, all of this. Whereas in Sandman, the guy sitting next to you on the bus could be Lucifer or the King of Dreams. And as such, you get stories about characters who I think were kind of pushed to the margins, especially at the time in other types of stories, right? And now they're at the center. And that makes you look twice at the world around you. It makes you sort of question, who is telling the story, and what point of views are we missing, and who is unmourned. I mean, that also really struck me, is that, like, this came out in the middle of the AIDS epidemic when, a lot of people were trying to push, these deaths and this terrible thing that was happening under the rug. And Sandman said, no, pay attention. This is important. These people are important. And that was very striking to me. And I think that's part of the reason that it still feels so relevant, because it kind of reminds you there are still stories we haven't heard. There's still things we're afraid to talk about. And it's the people around you who could be the true spinners of tales. And that really has stuck with me through the years.
Well, that answer was amazing.
I've thought about this a lot.
Oh gosh, it was so good, you will. I want to thank all of you for this wonderful time. I had the best time talking to all of you. But before we go, we can't forget about the dedicated fans. We asked and they responded, and we get it. You want to know about the Netflix show. So Neil, can you tell us anything? We've been asked about when it will be released. We've been asked about the cast details. What can you tell us, Neil?
Well, I can tell you that due to COVID, everything, as with every other piece of television being made around the world right now, somebody pushed a giant pause button. And we've taken advantage of our pause button just to try and get the scripts as close to perfect as we possibly could, which has been really fun. And that right now, as the universal pause button is starting to come off, we're starting to cast again. I'm getting these inspiring and wonderful emails with production designs, with places that I've only ever seen in the comics before, now being rendered in 3D, and I'm being asked to comment on it. That's amazing. There's not a lot I can say. Something that I will say is part of the joy of doing the audio adaptation was going, this is going to be the nearest thing we can do to an audiobook of those first 3 graphic novels, and hopefully all of the graphic novels. And we're going to start it in 1988. And it's going to end in about 1991 or 1992. Sandman is a very compressed story, even though it takes place all through time and space. That's where that story takes place. What we're doing with Netflix is saying, okay, it's still going to start in 1916, but the thing that happens in Sandman 1, the point that the story starts, is not 1988, it's now. And how does that change the story? What does that give us? What does that make us have to look at that we wouldn't have had to look at if we were setting it as a period piece? What is that going to do to the gender of characters? What is that going to do to the nature of characters? What's that going to do to the story? And that has been an absolute delight, because it means we are always being true to the story and being true to the characters, but it gives us tremendous freedom to go, okay, if we were doing it now, what would Sandman be? And that, again, is very liberating.
Well, as a fan myself, I cannot wait to see it. And I just wanted to share that I was a tiny part of the Sandman universe. Check this out. It's a drawing by artist Domo Stanton of me flying through the city.
Lovely.
I look good. Well, thank you all so much. It's been wonderful chatting about the Sandman. Thank you, G. Willow, Dirk Maggs, Michael Sheen, and of course, Neil Gaiman. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of DC FanDome!
Dreams, nightmares, demigods, and fallen angels, I'm officially in and can't wait to dig into Sandman. Right now, let's get back to hearing from our fans and see what questions they, or maybe even you, have.
already Batwoman kind of stands out because she doesn't technically have like a superpower. Everything that she uses to fight bad guys is more of her intelligence and Luke and her physical strength. So I do look forward to seeing that, or for playing in that perspective, like from a Ryan perspective, from like this street kid's perspective, from a person that saw these superheroes growing up, because that was also really important for Ryan, you know, to see Batwoman be an out lesbian and to have a, you know, a superhero role model to look up to. And then now all of a sudden I'm filling those shoes. So to not only fill those shoes, but to play amongst the ones that have already been doing it, I think that that's going to be a lot for her. I'm sure it's going to be a culture shock for her, but I also think that it's really cool because it's really like when that world meets the superhero world and it's in all of its dynamics.
Hola mi gente, I'm Gabby Cam, your host from Mexico City. For nearly 60 years, DC has played with the intriguing concept of the multiverse. It allows multiple dimensions all to exist at the same time, which means multiple versions of me could actually exist right now. And not only that, on these other worlds, I could be a different gender, ethnicity, a villain, or even an alien. I wish I knew what kind of alien I would be. Maybe in this panel, I will find out.
The multiverse has been at the heart of DC almost from the very start. But the moment most fans think of is this one. In the Silver Age of comics, when the Flash met the Flash in 1961. In Flash of Two Worlds, DC created a story where the Flash could be Barry Allen and Jay Garrick at the very same time, and created the architecture that would allow DC to be expansive, inclusive in their storytelling and in their universe, and is the world that fans now know, and also laid the groundwork for the ambitious crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis on Infinite Earths brought the DC multiverse to fans, bringing together DC superheroes and supervillains in a truly epic event. But this is not the first time DC has explored the multiverse, and trust me, it will not be the last time fans will see it, as DC is fully embracing this exciting creative concept and how it can open up endless opportunities for storytelling for our comic books, TV shows, film, and games creators. Here in the DC FanDome, I am so excited to have our own crossover moment and talk about what the multiverse really is for DC, how it informs every story DC tells, and how fans can expect to see it on the page or on the screen moving forward. I'm Tiffany Smith, and I'm so excited to welcome our panelists here today. First up, we have got a legendary comic book artist in his own right. He is also the Chief Creative Officer and Publisher for DC, and he sits at the heart of everything DC does and is a master of the multiverse, Jim Lee.
Thank you.
Next up, he oversees DC's films, which run the gamut from The Joker to Aquaman, and has huge plans for where DC movies are about to go next. Walter Hamada, how you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm good. Great to be here.
And finally, one of the key architects of DC's Arrowverse and the amazing Crisis crossover event, he is executive producer of nearly a dozen fan-favorite DC shows like Batwoman, The Flash, Supergirl, Doom Patrol, Titans, and the upcoming Superman and Lois, and many, many more. It's Greg Berlanti. How are you?
Very good, very good. Great to be here.
Let's just kind of go to the top of it, and I'm going to go to you, Jim. What exactly is the DC multiverse for people who may not know?
Yeah, you know, I think when people think about superheroes, you know, they know the names, the costumes, the powers, the origins, and it kind of tends to be this sort of monolithic kind of thing. But one of the things that really is distinct and unique to DC is that it's the first large work of fiction that has leaned upon this idea that we are not alone. We have this reality, this Earth, but that there are alternate realities that sit side by side with us, and the infinite number. And on each of these different Earths, we exist, but maybe in slightly different variations, right? We might be a different gender on another planet, or we might be furry creatures. And this extends to all the superheroes. So you start seeing this kind of endless spectrum of characters that you can create. And so it allows us to have the freedom and to create different versions and then lean upon that canon as we, you know, change up the mythology and the pantheon of characters to better reflect the true diversity and inclusivity that our audiences want and that our audiences live in.
And you kind of touched on it already, Jim, but let's go to you, Greg. How do you feel like the multiverse really informs the stories that you tell through DC TV?
I would say that when we started out just with Arrow, 8-9 years ago now, it wasn't our intention to just replicate what everyone had done so brilliantly in comics, and it wasn't until the Flash came along, and we tried in the pilot of the Flash to put the two of them on screen together, that I remember watching that first scene of the two of them together and thinking like, oh wow, this makes me feel like the DC books made me feel, like 1 + 1 = 3. The other thing it allows for is the vastness. You really feel the vastness of each of these different worlds, and I think it adds to the importance of these heroes and the myth of them, and that's been really exciting. And again, the element of surprise. If the universe that everyone's constructing, the different showrunners and creators and directors, and obviously with Walter and Jim helping shepherd all of it, if it can go to all those different places and still be tethered together, I think just as an audience member, I want to show up and not know, like, who might I see here, and I think that's incredibly exciting.
Well, and I think it's something too where, we talk about comic book writers getting to play with the characters in different ways. Same thing on the TV shows, where it's when you bring a character from one show into another show, those writers now get to play with that character or a different version of them, which I think the fans, myself included, have loved seeing on TV.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun for the actors. They love it when they play a villain version of themselves from another planet. Everybody loves to play a villain.
You face some of the greatest evils known to man, and you've defeated them. But if you think so highly of yourselves that you can defeat any threat that comes your way,
How do you feel about us?
And like you said, you weren't really thinking at the outset about getting to this place of Crisis on Infinite Earths and seeing all of that. Can you talk to us a little bit about just leading up to that and everything that happened before, and maybe like when you got to the point where you're like, yeah, this is something we really want to talk about?
Well, I mean, really it was so much of our motto behind the scenes was to try and create episodes and seasons and shows that we would want to watch. And so it just inevitably kind of kept going in that direction. One of my fellow EPs, Mark Guggenheim, is my own personal encyclopedia for a lot of knowledge of these things, and was really, the centerpiece of production-wise pulling the scope of those things together. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say just how much his own passion for all that has been, very inspiring. But we sort of kept, building block by block, and then truly in the last couple of years, and again in working with Walter and with Jim, it's really it's kind of taken a whole new level. We never thought we'd even be allowed to do Crisis, it was a pipe dream. We just kind of kept finding new ways to get all of our characters together, and then the year before we did Crisis, we said, well, what if we just say coming next year, Crisis, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, you can say that. Well, and I was like, well, I guess they've approved it then. Now we get to go. And that it was really epic. I mean, there were just so many, obviously, so many Easter eggs and so many different little characters. But then, the guys calling about saying that if we could we possibly fit in Ezra? Is that a possibility? That's really for the first time historically, combining a TV character and a film character in that way. Is, I think it feels like the beginning of a whole new generation of how we can begin to do these things, and that's just as a storyteller, that's really exciting.
Well, I feel like a kid in a candy store being like, we got Crisis on Infinite Earths, what's next? But can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the world post Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Well, we are, yes, because certain worlds have been combined, we're mindful of that now, in terms of how that will affect certain shows. And, in terms of what our crossover event will be next year, I think truly because of COVID right now and the pandemic, our aspirations aren't quite as large. We'd just like to start shooting again. That would be, not happy to invite any featured characters that the guys want to have on. I think that was truly a thrill.
How did that crossover event happen with Ezra, and talk about the conversation of when you guys were like, could this work? Can we get him here?
We'd been developing on the feature side our Flash script for a while, which was leaning into the idea of the multiverse and playing in that sandbox. And again, I'm focused very much on the movies and what we're doing, and Jim was just like, would you, since we're leaning into the multiverse, do you think Ezra would ever do this crossover? I picked up the phone, called him, and before I could even finish the pitch, he was like, I'm in. Tell me when, where. Like, he's just such a fan, I think, of the character, and I think of the universe, and he understands the importance of Flash and the character of his role sort of in that idea of the multiverse, that he immediately jumped on it, and then at that point, it was just Jim ran with it.
We were in a meeting, I think it was Walter, me, Peter Roth was there. We kind of threw out this idea, and Peter was like, let me talk to Greg about this. And this was last minute too, right?
But we had shot the crossover. So.
Yeah, exactly. This is like right before the holidays.
We were editing, and then so the first call was like, well, wait a second, can Flash also bring us back in time to do this? Because
exactly. Yeah, so we're on the holidays. I knew that we're down the wire, but I knew how meaningful this would be to the fans, just because Flash's meeting created the multiverse. That the fact that this had never been done before, and that this was new footage. A lot of the stuff, like with Green Lantern, was kind of old footage. This is new stuff, and we had to track down the costume for Ezra. Luckily, he still fit into it. And Peter, spoke with Greg, and Greg graciously allowed us to do this at the last minute, very last minute. And Mark wrote dialogue at the last second, sent it over. It had to be kind of vague enough to not create too many expectations, but kind of solidify the fact that this is happening, that these Flashes are both the Flash in different universes. And the cool thing is, Ezra's Flash was never named the Flash in the movies. He got his name from meeting Grant, who knew he was the Flash. And that's like so cool to have that introduction into the canon, right? And so that was it, and it came together the last minute, and it worked out great. Those guys kind of improvised and the lines, and
they definitely improvised.
There's
a lot of improvisation.
It was touching and funny, and it was just a great moment. And then when it went live, man, people's heads exploded. And then I think,
there were a lot of people who worked on the show. And had shot the episode and didn't know that it was in there. So they were watching. There were people that had been in the episode that were watching it live that night that wrote me. He said, I didn't know about this. Did you keep this a secret from me? And I was like, no, I wasn't. We just did it last week.
Yeah.
Is this cosplay? Oh, do you want a selfie, bro?
No,
I'm sorry.
We're not. No. I'm also the Flash.
You're also the what?
The Flash.
Flash? It's complicated. I like your outfit. It seems comfy.
Yours is pretty cool.
Smooth.
Seems safe
and breathable. Stop, Barry Allen. No! What does that mean? How can this...
This should be impossible now.
It should be impossible now?
You don't know about the...
Oh my god, don't do this to me. I don't know about the what.
Well, and kind of talk about that, Greg, because I know the crossover events are such a big to-do anyway, getting all of the actors from all of the shows and the sets and everything working together at the same pace and timing, and then now throwing in the film piece as well. I feel like all of you guys, just from talking to you and, knowing you a little bit, that you're a huge fan, so you're like, we'll do anything to make it work. But what was that moment like for you?
Well, I was, honestly, I really do experience these shows just as a fan first. And so when I heard it, I just thought I would want to see that. I would want to see that, let alone be a part of it. And whenever anybody in this business is doing stuff from that place of like, how can we make this thing the best it can be, and how can we deliver something to everybody and that understands and loves these characters as much as we do, then the impossible stuff that seems impossible ends up becoming possible.
I think up to this point we were the company was just organized in a way where TV was TV and film was film, and oftentimes DC and Jim was sort of the arbiter of like, hey, they want to use this character, using this character, and it became this like really weird situation where the fans they love the characters. They just want to see the characters, and this sort of opens the door for us to do more crossover, to really lean into this idea and just acknowledge the fact that there can be a Flash on TV and one in the movies, and you don't have to pick one or the other. You can love both, and they do both exist in this great multiverse. And I do think that moving forward, there's more opportunities for us to do things like this. And really, at the end of the day, it's about the fans, and I think the fans want to see it, and it gives us a way to sort of explore maybe some different stories and different ideas, and use the medium in a different way than it's been used thus far.
We can just dive in a little bit more into the DC films. Walter, for you, what does the multiverse really mean?
What the multiverse allows you to do is sort of lean into this idea of you can tell just great stories, and you don't have to really be as focused on it has to fit within a singular continuity. On one Earth, we have our Gal and Jason and Ezra version of the Justice League, and we can continue telling those stories, while on a separate Earth, we don't have to worry about the continuity. We can have a more grounded, real Year 2 Batman and build out that world and not really worry about continuity, story elements, and etc. And so it's really kind of the best of both worlds, and allows us to take advantage of everything that's great about what we've done and really allow us to sort of expand moving forward. And we're trying to keep it as simple as that. Like, there is that one Earth, the greater Earth of sort of this existing Justice League, and then the beginnings of another Earth that is sort of happening, that's early stages of Year 2 Batman. And then obviously there are outliers like Joker, which it doesn't exist in either Earth, but that's okay. It's all part of the multiverse. Matt Reeves can continue to build out his Gotham, and he's got great plans to how to build it out, and build it out in a way that's sort of innovative. And they announced recently that there's an idea of taking that Gotham and exploring it at HBO Max as a show. Like, those are things that you can do because we don't have to worry about how that would impact Aquaman 2 or how that could impact The Flash. So I think it just opens doors for us in ways that you couldn't have if you had to have a singular universe.
So let's get into some of the questions that we've got from fans. The first one is for you, Jim. It's from Van in the US. Now that Doomsday Clock has concluded, will we see any more of Alan Moore's comic characters cross over with the DC multiverse?
Probably less on the crossover side. You don't want to, dip into the well too often and kind of make it too regular thing. It becomes too commonplace. You want to save it for really big epic storylines where you've got great creators like Jeff Johns who's able to come in and really deliver, a story worthy of that kind of concept. But we are, there's a spin-off, there's a Rorschach series that Tom King is writing. It's not like necessarily a crossover per se.
No, non ti bloccare adesso.
But we are exploring more of the Watchmen universe. It's obviously got kind of second life with the HBO TV series, and so it's been kind of fun exploring that. But yeah, that's all I can share at this point.
The next one is for Greg from Swarab Kumar Singh in India. The Crisis on Infinite Earths finale showed that the multiverse is gone, and there exists only one universe and one Earth, Earth Prime. But since other shows like Titans, Doom Patrol, and the DC still goes on, is the multiverse actually gone, or is it recreated?
It's not gone. That was to really help us, sort of like the original reason for Crisis, when they were like, oh, we have too many worlds, let's start combining things for the purpose of the books. I think for the purposes of the CW, those worlds are now one. But off network is like being off planet in a different part of the multiverse, but it's still alive and flourishing.
The multiverse. Every existence multiplied by possibility. And spread out before space and time in infinite measure. Civilizations rose and fell. And rose again across reality's grasping expanse. Life, a precious gift, persevering in the face of every obstacle.
Super!
Until, finally, the Age of Heroes was born.
Okay, Well, the next question is for you from Sumik Day in India. Will we get more multiverse movies or even Elseworlds movies like Superman, Red Sun?
I think it's the possibility is there. It's not. It really comes down to, like I said, our focus is great stories, and so if we come across the right filmmaker with an interesting story that doesn't work within our existing timeline, and it would work as an Elseworld, we would definitely explore it. I can say we're not currently developing Red Sun, so that isn't one of them. But it really comes down to when the right filmmaker or the right idea comes together. That's the beauty of multiverse, is we can explore it. We can go down the road and take a shot at it. But what we don't want to do is be in a place like Jim was saying, like it should be special. It doesn't. You don't want I don't think you want an Elseworld movie every year, like Clockwork. Like it'd be much better for it to be a special thing. And we also want them to be great. We want them to be special. We want to make sure that it doesn't just sort of feel like we're just cranking out a volume of different versions of these characters. There has to be a reason for it. And I think it has to be a reason that we're excited about, that we think the fans will be excited about. So, yes, the answer is yes, there will be opportunities. That one is not one that we're currently exploring.
We've got one more question for all of you guys. This is from Ryan Keller in the U.S. With the existence of the DC multiverse, how do you approach managing a wide variety of characters, stories, and universes for DC? And how would you work to help keep the audience connected with such a large variety of characters and stories? I imagine that you guys all have like a board somewhere in your house. It's like you open the doors and it's like, here's the characters in the whole world connected with yarn. I don't think any of you have that. If you do, please show us right now.
It's like one of those True Detective scenes or something where it's just like newspaper
yarn, just yarns and pins. Yeah.
Oh, I think that is the challenge. There's so many characters, so many versions, but we have people through film, TV, within Berlanti's company. These are the assets we track and try to make sure that there aren't inconsistencies and that we are constantly communicating between ourselves so that we deliver something that's satisfying and maybe paints a bigger picture. And now that this has been established, this multiverse across all of the content, I think there's going to be a greater need for coordination to kind of deliver even cooler surprises going forward. But, I just want to really thank and applaud, Greg for really laying the groundwork for all this, because they didn't have to do this. From what I hear from Mark Guggenheim, it's a crazy amount of work, and bringing all these people together to deliver something that could potentially be very confusing or complicated, and being able to tell a story that's kind of derived from the canon. It is an amazing thing, and the fact that they've been able to do it year in, year out with different kind of crossovers and big events has been a real blessing, I think, for the DC universe, and has kind of shown that it can be done, but we just need to be on top of the storylines and where the characters are and how they're being used. But that's part of the job, and a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun involved as well, because we get to really explore really deeply into DC catalog sometimes.
When we were first pitching the idea of certain characters, there was a sense of like, okay, well, and this was years ago, but like, oh, we might use this character in the movie space, so maybe we won't then use the character there. And I would say, well, I can watch an animated Batman, and I don't confuse animated Batman from the Batman in your movies to, something on a show, but it doesn't mean that we still don't have to warrant using that character. Certainly any kind of character with that kind of size and scope and that much meaning in the world like this. But so we want to justify our use of any character, but at the same time, ultimately, I think it's in the as we bring all of these characters into live action and to life, it's just so much more enriching and rewarding for everyone. To feel like, okay, the best idea wins, and the best version of the story is going to be what we're all really trying to serve.
I think in the past there's been like, well, features might do something with that, so stay away from it. It could be years before that character ever showed up on the screen, if it even showed up on the screen, and it was clear to us, like, it doesn't make sense to hold that back from fans. Let's explore that. And by the way, if they fall in love with the character on TV and we do something in the movies 3 years down the road, all the better. Like, it's just a greater awareness for the characters. And so for us, our board is much smaller because we have fewer things that we're working on. We have, within a movie, it's 120 pages and there's a handful of characters, whereas in TV, there's a bunch of other characters that pop up. So it's a little bit more straightforward for us. I think really Jim is the great sort of, he's the center of everything, so he has to know everything that we're doing, features, everything that's happening on TV, and everything funnels to him. And I think that's great that we have this guy who sort of knows the world better than anybody, who can sort of look at it and kind of go and come up and say, wouldn't it be great if Ezra showed up when met Grant? And like, you don't get that without Jim sort of being sort of at the center of all this. So I think it's just a great collaborative team, and it's really just the beginning of what we're doing here. I think with just the stuff that we're working on now, the idea of the multiverse, and really HBO Max being this other venue for us to really start to meet in the middle. I think if there was that sense that TV was TV and film was film, Max sort of becomes this place where we you know, it's like, it'll be our clubhouse. Well, everything will gather into that space, and we'll be able to explore different opportunities and cross back over. And I'm excited about the potential of all the things that we can do with DC in the multiverse.
Awesome. Well, I want to say a huge thank you to the three of you guys for taking the time to chat with me and all of the fans here in the DC FanDome. This is such, like, we're talking about different platforms for things, and this is a whole new platform for fans to get to experience the DC multiverse as well. So thank you guys so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thanks,
Thank you, Tiffany. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Che cosa ci fate vedere adesso?
The future certainly looks bright for the DC multiverse. I'm still not sure what I will look like on Earth 26, but I can't wait to meet me there. Now, if you're a big DC fan like me, then I'm willing to bet that you cannot wait for the Flash feature film to electrify the big screen. The good news is that you don't have to wait that long, because we are going right now with the filmmakers and the Flash himself, Ezra Miller.
Hello, fans around the world. It's me, Ezra Miller.
Lui.
Can you smooth out your hair on the left side a little bit?
You go like this? I'm Andy Muschietti, director of the Flash movie.
I'm Christina Hodson, the screenwriter of The Flash. I haven't spoken to humans in a while, so...
Sì. Mannaggia. Stanno in tilt. Stanno in tilt troppe persone connesse.
Pablo story, which I find very exciting.
Andy managed to put these tiny little DC Easter eggs into the It movie.
I like your glasses, Mr. Keene. You look just like Clark Kent.
No, dai, non ti fai fermare così. Prende più? Che facciamo? potential. Non gli va proprio più, che stress, guarda. Niente, non ci fa partire.
And his immense power is really what's exciting about superheroes to me. Flash fact: the hippopotamus is faster than the human being. Beware.
Every actor, every director, every writer brings something different to the character.
Barry as a character, and especially the way Ezra plays him, he's a guy with so much heart, so much humor. Spending time with Ezra is kind of like spending time with Barry Allen.
Really, I can feel his passion and his enthusiasm and his creativity.
He was born to play this role.
Flash fact: the first appearance of the multiverse in DC Comics is actually a Flash comic. Flash Comics number 123, The Flash of Two Worlds.
Time travel isn't simple. It's not always a straightforward case of go back and change one thing and another thing changes in the future.
This film is immensely important because if you look around at the DC universe, obviously we have all of these characters that exist within their own bubbles. We even have now multiple iterations of the same story.
I'm Batman. And Batman. I'm Batman. Sounds like a cool guy.
This movie, by opening that door that Flashpoint did in the comics, all of these stories and characters can start to collide. Hello?
This should be impossible now.
It should be impossible now?
You don't know about the...
Oh my god, don't do this to me. I don't know about the what.
The cinematic multiverse is going to be born out of this movie. It's born out of Barry's story.
It blows our minds, the levels of possibility that exist within the context of this character and this story.
I can't wait for all of us to be able to sit down in a theater and enjoy these movies in the dark with a lot of people and with great snacks.
So obviously I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. I want you to be surprised when you see it. There's something that I can show you, a little sneak peek.
Oh my gosh. Oh, nope, sorry. That's my fault. It was an accident. It's not my personal playlist, but it might, yeah, that might have been my fault. Back to you, Andy.
So I'd like to share a couple of concept art drawings, and it's Barry Allen's new suit. As you can see, it's more organic. You can see light embedded in it. It has been built by his friend Bruce Wayne this time.
Flash fact: the first ever Batman movie is actually an unlicensed Batman Dracula movie made by Andy Warhol with a soundtrack by the Velvet Underground. It's unreleased, but there's 39 minutes that have been recovered, and I highly recommend watching them. They're extremely strange.
There are so many potential crossovers in the multiverse, so many cool things that you could do.
I would really love them to do a two-hander with Wonder Woman. I think they would solve a lot of problems, let me tell you.
I'd like to see Game of Thrones crossover. Instead of all the months that it takes traveling from Winterfell to King's Landing, it would happen in 2 seconds. Barry Allen in the Iron Throne.
I actually already have a weird behind-the-scenes DC multiverse crossover. My best friend growing up is Rob Pattinson's older sister. So I've actually known the new Batman since he was 2 years old and in diapers.
I would like the Flash to meet in the multiverse Nicolas Cage. Not the Nicolas Cage Superman that never was. I'd want the Flash to meet Nicolas Cage, the person in this world, who I believe probably does have the ability to transcend space-time.
No, vabbè, ma che mi
It's a real proposition.
Nicolas Cage Superman. Ma dai, ma che roba è?
I also can't wait to hear more about The Flash. Thank you, Andy, Barbara, Christina, and Ezra. Fun fact, we all know there are several Flashes: Wally West, Jay Garrick, Bart Allen, and Barry Allen. Did you know when Barry isn't working to save the world as the Flash, he's working to save Central City as a police scientist? Okay, that's all for me right now. I'm going to turn this over to Jaden Rodriguez, and I'll see you back here soon.
G'day DC Fandom, I'm Jaden Rodriguez from Australia, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. I just gotta say that being a total superhero freak that I am, I'm totally loving being part of this epic DC event. And you can't talk about superheroes without talking about the man himself, Batman. I mean, dude, can you imagine how awesome it would be to be Batman? In fact, if there's anything better than watching Batman, it's watching two Batmans, or Batmins. It doesn't matter. Let's have a look at this mashup of two fan favorite Dark Knights who happen to reside in the opposite ends of the Bat spectrum.
Batman, attenzione.
Terry, this is top priority.
Go ahead, Bruce.
A Wayne Powers deep space probe is receiving an anomalous communication. I'm patching it into you now.
Is that you?
Clearly that's not me, Terry, but apparently it's what passes for me on this Earth.
Whoa! Who's the dweeb?
That would be Robin's counterpart.
The Joker. No way. That's the Joker?
That's not the Joker, it's a Joker.
I don't know, Bruce. Your friend with the Liberty Bell hair said the Joker.
No matter which universe he's from, he's a vicious and deadly psychotic.
He's throwing fish at you right now.
One thing's for sure, this Joker could up his thug recruitment game.
Yeah, pick up a fish and start tossing already, slacker. Wait, is he stealing a fish? Oh, this has got to be the dumbest heist.
The fish snapping of the century! Careful, you don't...
Hey, swell costume, by the way, Bruce.
Terry.
Must have taken forever to get the iron-on bat symbol just right.
Terry!
To the Batmobile!
Oh, this ought to be good.
Batmobile.
Actually...
that ride's pretty sway, Bruce.
Don't let them catch you from behind.
What an odd thing to say. Hey, Bruce, I just noticed something about your cowl.
Again, not my cowl. But what is it?
Are the eyebrows painted on?
Don't be. Oh, wait. They are.
You know, my great aunt does the same thing with her eyebrows. Totally works for Aunt Phyllis.
What the?
Now what's going on? Where's this?
I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it must be built on a hill.
Joker could really stand to run a comb through that wig, huh? Oh, easy, Boy Wonder. Let's not forget we're wearing elf shoes and support hose.
And who is he even shushing at this point?
What's with the 57 random telescopes lying around for no reason?
Something's fishy here, Batman.
Beautiful!
The Gotham High girls volleyball team's gonna be ticked when they find out their net was stolen.
Actually, I'm not sure which is more disconcerting. His trap, or the fact that these two can't seem to find their way out of it.
How about a fish fry?
Ooh, fish fry guy here is angling for a promotion. Settle down there, fish fry.
Wait a minute.
What is it?
Look at the Joker. Is it my imagination, or does he...
have a mustache?
Now that is just not right.
Wow, worst hot tub party ever. But on the bright side, Robin is already wearing his bathing suit.
I couldn't possibly deprive that poor hungry clam of its dinner.
Hold up! That's a clam?
Very touchy. Oh, boy, wonder what a succulent hors d'oeuvre you should make.
It really is quite unsettling.
Well, a giant man-eating clam is... Wait, you're talking about the mustache again, aren't you?
It's mesmerizing. I would have gotten out of this in 2 seconds.
Aunt Phyllis could have gotten out of this in 2 seconds. By the way, Bruce, what do you feed paper mache?
Oh, what a hideous face!
Oh, be nice, Venus. Robin's sitting right next to you. You get it? 'Cause she was talking about... Never mind.
Mollusk? Some mollusk! Push yourself away, Robin.
Is it weird that part of me is rooting for the clam?
Him against the sign! Robin!
I was actually feeling bad for Robin, but then I saw those elf booties again, and well... Hey, what happened?
That's the end of the transmission.
What do we do?
Not sure, but I know what we won't do.
What's that?
We never tell anyone what we saw here today.
Seriously? Not even the mustache?
Never.
I can tell you're serious. Know how? Your eyebrows, very expressive on their own. Why you ever chose to paint?
Don't you start.
I love it. Batman has such a great sense of humor. Okay, devoted fans teamed up to show out in force at the DC FanDome. Let's take a look at some of the best group cosplays, and coming up is a showdown like you've never seen before. Stay tuned for lots of fun and games with the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Come on then, let's go. I like watching the stars. Orion and the plough. Polaris. And the big triangular thing. I win!
Even though we are in the Hall of Heroes, I know that if I was ever in trouble, I would call upon this next group to help me out. As you know, director James Gunn announced in February that filming had wrapped for the Suicide Squad. And right now, he's taken a break from the edit bay to be here with us to discuss his vision for the film, answer fan questions, and have some insanely crazy fun with the cast. And, of course, share some never-before-seen content with us. Check it out.
This is amazing. I'm so excited to be here at DC FanDome with all the amazing DC fans. As many of you know, the Suicide Squad is by far the most fun I've ever had making a movie. I am still working hard on it every day from morning till night, but we're having a great time creating something incredibly special for people. And I'd like to take this break now to take some questions from you guys.
Hey James, when was the first time you ever read Suicide Squad as a comic book? And who was your favorite character?
I read John Ostrander's original run of Suicide Squad. So I remember reading the very first issue of that run and falling in love with the concept, with the characters. I loved the movie The Dirty Dozen that came out back in the 60s, and this was like a super villain version of The Dirty Dozen. And I loved the character of Amanda Waller, who was so different for the time, you know, in terms of being such a strong woman, but not kind of an anti-hero, but kind of bad, kind of good, not physically the same as everybody else you saw in comic books. And I just thought she was so cool. And of course, I loved all the characters and Boomer and everybody, and I just had a great time reading that initial run.
My name is Maisha Kondakar, and I'm a loyal DC fan, and I'm making this video from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I have a question for James Gunn. Which DC character were you most excited to write about for the Suicide Squad movie, and why?
Maisha, I think the character that I was the most excited to write for was Harley Quinn. I've loved this character ever since Paul Dini first put her in animated shows. I think that there's a sort of chaotic trickster god nature to her, where she's just always going off in random directions, and as a writer, that's a really fun thing to deal with because she takes you in places where you don't know you're going to go. So a lot of it was me writing for Harley, and a lot of it was Harley doing some of the writing for me during the Suicide Squad.
Hey, I'm Jake from State Farm, and setting aside the massive amounts of damage that you must have had the squad rack up in that one scene, can you confirm the number of crashes and explosions? You know, asking for a friend.
Hey, Jake, I cannot confirm the exact amount of explosions and crashes, but I will say that we have about as many explosions and crashes in this film as in any film ever. In fact, the guy who did all of our special effects on this film, Dan Sudik, who has done almost all of the Marvel movies, great movies, says there are more effects in this film than all of those movies he's done combined. So we have quite a huge special effect explosion extravaganza for you guys.
You've said Ostrander's run was influential, but what else inspired you to feature these under-the-radar characters?
That is an amazing question, and one I'm excited to answer because I actually had a long talk with John Ostrander, about this, because he came and he visited the set. And I said, I don't think of this movie so much as an adaptation of your comics. I think of this movie as a sequel to your comics, to your run in the comic books. What would John Ostrander be doing with these characters, if it was 30 years after he first started? And so I think that it has the spirit and the lifeblood of the Ostrander books, but I also like to continuously take in new supervillains, other supervillains who have sometimes been in the Suicide Squad comics over the years, but also a lot of, characters like Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher, who have never been in the Suicide Squad, but who I just think are great DC villains who have something to offer and that we could have put into the movies. So that is where my biggest inspiration comes from.
Who were your favorite villains as a kid? And did working on this movie teach you anything new about these quote-unquote villains?
Wow, who are my favorite villains growing up? Well, I was a huge Batman fan, and I'm going to tell you who my favorite villain was, and maybe it's a little embarrassing, but I'm not embarrassed by it. It was Batmite. I loved Batmite. I thought he was hilarious and creepy as heck. So Batmite was definitely my favorite supervillain. And don't think I didn't think about putting the Batmite in the Suicide Squad, because I did.
I saw the set photos of the Suicide Squad and I absolutely love the direction of the movie. But is it true that Flora Borg is playing Javelin Man? And if so, why? Also, is Nathan Fillion playing Blackguard?
Hey Milan, so is Flula playing Javelin Man? Well, his name isn't exactly Javelin Man, but in mere moments we are going to see who Flula and Nathan are playing in the film. And I'll give you a hint. One of them you got pretty correct, and the other one you didn't get correct. And there's a lot of people all over the internet who have theories about who people are playing, and sometimes they've been right, and sometimes they've been wrong. And so I guess we're going to answer all those questions in a minute. But I will tell you one thing, which is Flula Borg is the funniest guy in the entire world and incredibly strange. But he's become a good friend through all this, and he's a great guy. And Nathan, of course, has been in all my movies. He's already been a friend. Here it comes, the time that so many of you guys have been waiting for. Who is who in the squad? You've heard a lot of the actors that are in this movie. You don't know who they're playing. Maybe you have some good guesses. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. We'll have to see. But here it is, everything.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence.
You're my dream, you're my nightmare. Life is a breeze, you don't fight fair.
Welcome, Task Force X. These are your brothers and sisters for the next few days.
Run away from the pain, I don't care.
bello. John Cena. Dai. No, non mi mollare adesso. Che miseria. Lo più bello, ma c'hanno tutti sto problema, vedo?
Michael Rooker, unfortunately, is Savant. Had to put him in the movie. I deal with the devil. Peter Capaldi as the Thinker. Sean Gunn is Weasel. Steve Agee is John Economos and our on-set King Shark.
Yes.
Alicia Braga as Sol Soria. Juan Diego Boto is General Presidente Silvio Luna. Real great guy. Joel Kinnaman is, of course, Rick Flag. Viola Davis is Amanda Waller. And, of course, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn.
Hey,
Still here! Together again!
Get together again.
Good. Are you excited to be a part of DC FanDome?
Yes!
Super excited. This is going to be great.
Well, we're going to have some fun here. We're going to have some competition, which it's not fun unless there's somebody winning and somebody losing. And so I would like to have a couple of team leaders, and I think it only makes sense that we have the people in charge of the Suicide Squad, Viola Davis and Joel Kinnaman, as our team leaders.
Hey, team leaders!
And why don't you guys go ahead and let's pick teams.
Bloodsport.
Thanks. Thanks.
Definitely.
All right, I'll take my girl, Harley Quinn.
All right.
Yay!
I will take Savant.
Oh, good for you.
Wow.
What a bad mistake.
That is a bad pick. That is. And you guys have scenes together too. I can't believe you made that mistake.
I gotta tell you, you just made a big mistake.
John Cena. I'll take John Cena.
I want to reassure you that that is a horrible decision. You
No,
will
I
definitely-
already know that.
I'm going to take my boy, King Shark.
Okay, I will take my man Boomer, Jai Courtney.
All right.
Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher 2.
Two. I will take Flula Borg, the Javelin.
Yes. I guarantee we will lose. Yes.
Cazzoloni,
I'm
ragazzi.
gonna take Polka Dot Man.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm gonna have to grab the weasel.
Guarda chi c'è.
Oh, good man.
Grandi
That's
Apolloni.
not on Rooker's team. Yeah.
The weasel kid.
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Out of names.
What about what's making me feel really bad?
There's left.
There's only
So
one left.
sad.
It feels like high school again.
Did someone?
It totally feels like high school.
This is what it was
Yeah,
about.
I just
The
think so.
basketball.
Yeah, the thinker.
Great idea.
I will pick the Thinker.
Nathan
You guys are
Fillion,
losing already.
DK.
Sol Soria.
El Presidente, El Presidente.
Okay, yes.
What about Mongo?
I got picked by Joel.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
I'll just watch.
Pete, this is sad.
Victory cigarettes.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. I was a good pick by Carl.
Eccoli, vedi? Questo ci sta.
Okay.
Perfetto.
That went well. I think that went really well.
Mamma mia.
And let's start off. We're going to go head to head, and we're going to start off with the team captains. Let's do Joel and Viola. I'm going to pick. This is a good question.
Okay.
'Cause I know both of you know so much about the lore of DC Comics.
sta cazzata, mi sa di sì. No, perché questo è il problema. Porca miseria, non lo devo fare. Mi devo fare l'affari mia. Vai. Mi dovevo fare l'affari mia. E vabbè, raga, purtroppo. Che cosa incredible. Fortunatamente stavano soltanto chiacchierando del più e del meno, tra attori. Fortunatamente non stanno a far vedere niente, se non sai che avrei rosicato a bestia, proprio. Rosico lo stesso, però non stanno a far vedere nessuna cosa in particolare, quindi. Mi dovevo fare l'affari mia. Niente che la volevo fare. Che stress. Nada. Che stress, davvero. Io ci posso stare 2 ore così, E vabbè, oh, che devo fare? Ok, ok, ok. E dai, andiamo. Ma che mi fai stai giochetti? arreso. Se è arreso. Si è arreso il ragazzo. Tanto andiamo.
The bell's already been rung, and they've heard it. Out in the dark, among the stars. Ding dong, the god is dead.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
Hey guys, thought I might crash your little watch party.
Stiamo vedendo Justice League Taser numero 2.
Have a question that is the mother of all our questions as a fandom. When will you release the Snyder Cut?
There it is.
Yes.
There it is. It's a hard question. I don't know. What do you think, Henry?
I reckon you should show it.
We're doing it. So get ready.
Oh my god.
Finally! Ma non hanno fatto vedere niente di che questo sarà, che ne sarà? Bruce Wayne. Vedi?
Crash your little watch party.
Ci faranno vedere qualcosa oggi, che c'è sta il trailer. Ma non c'è niente, solo questo. Sì. E allora ci faranno vedere oggi.
The bells among the stars.
Purtroppo ci vediamo un attimo al volo questo trailer qui, così nel frattempo
It'll take long for Gotham's criminals to realize that Batman is gone. And you can't count on the GCPD. Never trusted us since Jim died. Gotham will need its protectors more than ever. I'm leaving you the Belfry as base of operations. Some of the technology is outdated, but it has the gear you need and all of my files. You've always had my back when I needed you. I know you'll keep Gotham safe. Good luck. And goodbye.
Not a whisper word is said.
Questi sono i gufi. Bene.
For if you try to crush them, then Metal strikes you dead.
Dove finiamo? Gameplay.
Hi, I'm Patrick Redding, creative director on Gotham Knights. On behalf of the whole team at WB Games Montreal, I'm really honored to give you a quick look at our gameplay.
Belfry, Elliott Center is covered in ice. Whatever's causing this is localized at the top.
We're going to look at a short clip from one of Gotham Knights' villain crimes in a pre-alpha build. This mission is halfway through the Mr. Freeze storyline, and we're playing Batgirl a dozen or so hours into her character progression.
All units at Elliott Center. Air support inbound. Hostiles opening fire on upper floors. Air support, can you do a fly around?
Freeze has recently returned to Gotham with a mysterious agenda that involves manipulating the weather to flash freeze the city.
We need a way to get through that ice.
An important goal for Gotham Knights was that players can play all of the game either solo or in two-player co-op.
If he wants a fight, he'll get it.
Robin's learned how to access the Justice League satellite for short-range teleportation. While Batgirl has mastered
È andata.
more familiar techniques.
Se la vi.
And developed a few new ones of her own.
Che robetta, soltanto a immaginare che sia cooperativo. Che bello. Che dolore. Non vedo
Toya
l'ora,
here.
ma
Heard you're down there having some fun. Fun's one word for it. Just a heads up, that chopper's under orders to fire on anything that moves inside.
Gotham City Police. Drop your weapons or we will open fire. Returning fire.
The storm is getting worse. You need to hurry and find a way inside Elliott Center.
The GCPD chopper made that part easy. This doesn't look up to code. Whoa! If anyone asks, I meant to do that.
I won't say a word.
Tours were still going on when Freeze came through.
Those poor people. They didn't stand a chance.
Gotham Knights is built to let players approach each challenge with their preferred style and their preferred build.
You know how cold it is up there, right? You want to die of exposure? Be my guest. This'll only take a second.
Vabbè, che figata. Solo di vederlo. Wow.
safest time to take the elevator.
You'd rather take the stairs?
These cables on the floor. Guaranteed they lead to freeze. Belfry, status.
Countless dead, and the temperature's still falling.
We need to stop this. Now.
Belfry wasn't kidding about this storm.
Almost there. I see the weather machine. Ready with the disruptor.
That thing's drawing so much power.
Field disruptors in place. It's charging.
Get away from my storm engine.
Is that what you're calling it? You don't want to be on the roof when this disruptor goes off. Trust me.
Irrelevant. I already have what I need. The storm has risen over Gotham. Nothing can stop it.
We'll see about that.
You cannot run from me!
L'ho visto.
An important element of Gotham Knights is that as the player increases in power and ability, their foes keep pace. So confronting a villain like Mr. Freeze can be a very different proposition at level 5 or at level 15. And not just in terms of stats, but in the kinds of attacks and defenses they bring to bear. And that was just a short peek at Gotham Knights. We're going to have more to show you in the future.
But it's not leaning, it's not about being a woman or a man.
I agree with you. Women are powerful and men are powerful too. So you don't have to try to be either or.
Yeah.
We all have an innate power in ourselves.
So how did you approach the line?
I really wanted to do something that really represented Wonder Woman, but in a less traditional sense.
Yeah.
So it's away from the red, white, and blues,
Yeah.
but focused on the stars. And especially with, of course, Linda Carter, I'm inspired by that. And I have to say, every time I design an outfit for the Olympics, it's designed after Wonder Woman. So I have like this inspiration behind it. And every 4 years, this outfit that I wear is inspired by Wonder Woman. But this time I wanted to stick with the symbolism of her and not necessarily that color palette. So that's how we came up with this sparkling star, black and white. Anyone can wear a black and white, and there's gold in it as well. And then these elements of surprise and wonder. And so we have these crystals with the amazing Wonder Woman crest.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
I think we talked about this already, but your first memory of Wonder Woman and kind of, well, you can talk about that, but also like connect that memory of Wonder Woman to where you are now. Film.
Yeah.
What's that feel like? And does it feel full circle? Because to me, it feels like something you were meant to do.
Here's what's interesting about it. So my first memory of Wonder Woman is my mom never let us watch TV, and or alternately, we didn't have a TV. So I saw it at a friend's house, and I just remember just like the catnip zeroing in on it. And immediately the thing that it turned into was the role play on the schoolyard. I was in elementary school, and everybody would play who they were. And I remember it became imperative to get out onto the yard first so that you could declare you were Wonder Woman. So all these years later, when it became something I got to do, there were lots of Wonder Woman fans, but it was very important to me that whoever did the movie was a fan. and I was. So I found myself in this situation where it's both totally surreal that you get to be the one to do it after having a childhood connection. On the other hand, I was like, well, I don't know who else is a fan here trying to direct this movie, but I know that I am. So I'm happy that it's somebody who can be a guardian of that legacy, you know. And that was the first thing I did, was call Linda Carter. And I called Linda and I said, you're going to read in the trades that we're doing a new Wonder Woman, and I want you to know we're not here to reinvent Wonder Woman or redesign Wonder Woman. I simply want to take the torch of something you gave to me and pass it forward to the kids of the next generation and people of the next generation. And so I want to continue that. She's been a dear friend ever since, but it was about kind of honoring that legacy.
Okay, so why do you think that it's important to not only have real but fictional role models that are like Wonder Woman?
My mother is a feminist and like really shielded me in a way from a belief that I would hit limits. And so I feel like between the Wonder Womans of the world and the way that I grew up, nobody was ever telling me I couldn't. And I was seeing, so I was able to look at other women in the world doing incredible things. And, you know, athletes and actresses and, you know, scientists and all of these things, and think like, oh, okay, cool. I wasn't focusing on that it wasn't possible. I always thought it was perfectly possible. It took many years for me to see how far behind we still were in so many ways. And that's too bad. But I think that that's always been my goal, is to be a part of, like, let's not fight and let's not justify and do all of those things. Let's just assume, of course, it's possible that all of these people can do so many things. So it is the seeing it and seeing people like you out in the world doing incredible things that, of course, makes it seem attainable to other people.
I love that. I feel like we grew up in the same home.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to say, Kent, you're in major trouble if you said that. We weren't really allowed to watch TV unless it was educational programs. So I think we have a lot of stories. A lot of stories we could share.
I know.
In the multiverse, you lived like right there too, but just another planet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that your parents, or of course I faced a lot of blocks, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking there was going to be sexism that held me back at all. I was absolutely just propelling forward. And so I think that's where, like, having an idealized world and being raised in a place where you believe that sort of thing is possible makes a big difference of, like, you can do things. And so, yeah, modeling it for kids and people is amazingly important.
Extremely important. What do you think sets Wonder Woman apart from other superheroes?
I think it's her moral hopes for mankind. I can't think of any other superhero who, I think a lot of them who have great morality, of course, and lots of complex things, but someone whose mission even is to make mankind better. She's not perfect or above it either. So her own struggles to figure out how to use her power and be helpful is so interesting to me. I loved graphic novels right from the start because I loved Little Nemo and Slumberland, and I would look at all of these graphic novels, and then I loved superheroes. So I transitioned pretty easily over to sometimes comic books, sometimes more highbrow, you know, comic book art books and things, and it came quite naturally.
Quite naturally.
Yeah.
I think you touched on something earlier too, where you talked about you didn't know what blocks you would face.
Yeah.
And I think that happens with Wonder Woman too, that she doesn't know what she's going to face. How were you able to deal with some of the things that you faced on your road to where you are now? And what advice would you give for women who want to follow in your footsteps? And I hate saying women, because if you're a director, you should be the best director. If I'm a tennis player, I should be one of the best tennis players to ever play. Why should I have to be singled out for these other things? So regardless, sometimes this is how the world looks at us, and we know that women do face more challenges to get to the top. So what is your advice, and how did you feel when you faced those roadblocks? How did you get through them?
It was after I was successful, actually. After I had made Monster that I started to see, oh, I'm a woman director. Oh, I wasn't thinking about that. And all of a sudden I started to see limitations or hopes or wants or expectations on me because of that. And that was when it really surprised me. It's because I thought, oh, I wasn't thinking about being a woman. I'm just a director. Yes, I make movies starring women, but we're not women films. We're just making films. Almost Wonder Woman-like. I've always tried to say, that's their problem. Like, this is their problem. I'd love to help you with it by surprising you with what I can do. But I have to focus on what I'm doing over here and do the best job I can while you get over your expectation of what people can do, I can't be bothered. And I want to always be a part of the voice of change in as big of a way as I can. But also not let that get in your head. So I try to just aim to be end-minded, you know?
Last questions from my end is, let's talk about the Amazons and Wonder Woman and how amazing that they look in their outfits and how boss they are. I love all of that. Can we talk about like stone women, costumes, and all of that?
There are many set patterns for doing warfare and competition, but they all are very specifically masculine, which you don't really think about until you start trying to design it. And the fighting is, like I said, headbutting and, you know, so getting into what they would do, what competition would be, how it would work, and what kind of clothing they would wear. It's not unlike you and how you dress and the things that you design, where it's like they don't need to be sexed up in an inconvenient way, but they also wouldn't not care about what they look like. They'd also care and have ownership in what they're thinking that what they're putting on is both functional and cool. It's a fun thing to try to represent an entire world in this incredible tribe of Amazons. It reminds me of the kind of sports I've watched you do, so that makes me so happy.
Stay in touch. I love this whole conversation. I really do. We're in the same home.
I know. And I mean it when I say, like, it's so funny because I really do sit around and talk about what Amazons are and what Wonder Woman is. And you literally are out there in this world walking around, like, demonstrating it all the time. And that's what's so cool is, like, being the director of it. Sometimes people will say, I've never seen a movie like that before. And I'm like, yeah, but you see the women. You've seen the women. You've seen people like you. So it's interesting that it's such an unusual thing. So nice to meet you. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. Bye.
Wow, I had no idea Venus was such a huge DC fan like us. Not only do we here in the DC fandom want to know what you out there in the fanverse think, but we also want to know what you can do. We asked and you didn't disappoint. You sent in the best of your best cosplay and fan art, and here just a sample of the amazing talent out there in the DC fandom. What is a boss? It is someone who's confident, reaches their goals, and uses their inner strength as a superpower to get through life. You do not want to miss this next conversation as we gathered some of the most electrifying females from Megan Good to Candice Payton, the new Batwoman, Javisha Leslie, and more for a conversation we called Boss, Female of Color, within the DC Universe, moderated by celebrity DJ D Nice and Grammy Award-winning singer Estelle.
What's a boss? 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 It's me. That's me.
That's me.
That's me.
What's happening, folks? How you feeling? Welcome to the DC fandom. My name's Estelle,
and my name is D Nice, and welcome to Boss, Females of Color within the DC Universe panel.
Right, we're going to start off by introducing some of the panelists today. Megan Good, who plays Darla Shazam on Shazam the Film.
And I'm a big fan of this show. Candice Patton, who plays Iris West Allen on The Flash.
We got Nafisa Williams, who plays Anissa, Thunderbird, Blackbird on Black Lightning.
Yes, and we have Chantel Tweed, she plays Grace Joy on Black Lightning.
We got Javicia Leslie, who plays Ryan Wilder, aka Batwoman, on Batwoman.
Hey.
We also have Anna Jope, who plays Coriander on Titans.
Hey, we got Damaris Lewis. My little sis, I love her. Plays Blackfire on Titans.
And we have Tala Ash, who plays Zari Tarazi on DC's Legend of Tomorrow.
Awesome. So we want to start this off with taking a minute to congratulate the newest boss of the entire group, Javicia Leslie, the first Black actress to play Batwoman. And look, this is huge news, given that only a few iconic Black actresses, Eartha Kitt, Halle Berry, and recently announced Zoe Kravitz, I know to hang around the Batcave, but they're Catwomen. Javicia said she want to be Batwoman. So, that's a huge thing. So we want to congratulate you and big you up for even doing that. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much.
So awesome.
Or who was kind of like your blueprint? Who do you think? Who was a person that you said, "Oh, this is why I want to do this"?
I've always truly admired Eartha Kitt. But I admire Eartha Kitt even outside of acting. I love her for her activism and the fact that she used her art for activism. And just her mentality in general, the things that she would say and how dynamic they were. And then just as a woman and the power that she had as a woman.
That's incredible. Do you got a question?
Yes. So I have a question for Anna. How's playing the role of Starfire changed your life?
It's a big question. I think as many people know, when I was cast, there was a lot of backlash because some people were upset that it was a Black woman that they cast. And I had to lean into my friends and my family and my faith, I guess, in a way that I haven't ever really had to do before. And also, it's been incredible to see what that meant for a lot of people. A lot of marginalized people reach out to me, be it Black or gay or trans or whatever. And it's incredible to be, even if, some small inspiration for them. So I guess in those ways.
It's definitely important during this time as well.
I'll throw one up to anybody who wants to answer. Like, when you're a BIPOC, seeing someone who looks like you play a character you've grown up loving is super powerful. I know that playing Garnet. Now, how does it make you feel knowing that you may be someone's first introduction to the world of superheroes? Like, what is the thing? How does it feel when the kids react to you or the people say?
I remember really early, we started our show in 2014, and I remember shortly after we aired, I remember getting a tweet from a mom, and she was saying that her and her daughter were watching The Flash, and her daughter was watching my character, and she was like, "Mommy, Iris West is so beautiful. She looks just like me. Does that mean that I'm beautiful too?" And she tweeted that to me, and I get teary-eyed to this day thinking about it. And I remember tweeting her back and saying, "Yes, tell your daughter we are beautiful. Like, remind her we are beautiful."
My daughter's 8 years old, and when I told her that, I was doing this with you guys, she was like, are you serious? Can I come in? Can I sit with you?
Okay, so for Damaris, all right, so you've been in this industry as a whole for a while, right? Whether it's you being a model, you've danced for Prince, like you've been a dancer, you've done some things in your life, and I've been part witness to a lot of it, and now you're a superhero. I remember seeing you on the screen and thinking to myself, she better work. That was literally my first thought upon seeing you in your role. As you move forward in your career, what exactly was the point of pivot? What was the point where you said, I'm going to do this? Go.
First of all, full circle moment, just the fact that you and Dee have been part of my journey,
Sure.
I think are always showing up. The pivot for me was when I started getting booked for being different. And that's when I realized that being different was my superpower. I have spent my entire life, I had the luxury of working with Prince and have him being my mentor. And this is a person who prided himself on being different. But until it happens to you, you don't really believe it. And so, modeling is one beast, dance is another beast, acting is another beast. And I've always been that kid in the corner. I've always been that person that thought a little bit differently. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of examples of what happens when you think differently.
I will tell you, you were a superhero when I first met you. I met you because of Estelle at one of Prince's shows.
Wow.
And
yeah.
The way you were walking across the stage, it was like, well, who is this? Like, it was just so confident to walk across the stage like that with Prince. And to see the type of success you're having right now, we all knew it was going to happen, and we're all proud of you.
I love y'all. Thank you.
No, it's awesome. So, Chantel, I have a question for you. So, who are your role models, whether females or just anyone in the industry? Like, who inspired you?
I think growing up, I had Maggie Cheung, who did a lot of Wong Kar-wai films, as someone I admired a lot, and Sandra Oh, who broke a lot of barriers with the work she's done. But I also love doing theater. So a lot of actresses who've done theater and film and television is something I admire a lot, like Tessa Thompson or Felicia Rashad and Kate Blanchett. So I love actresses who use their craft not just as a way of exposure, but really to like as a craft, digging deep and using it in a way that can change lives in their own lives. Like my grandmother, who left Vietnam during the war with her 10 kids on a boat. Wow. I mean, that for me, the personal heroes in my life, I think probably have marked me the most.
Wow, that's awesome.
How do you liberate yourselves and or subsequently your characters from the hypersexualized, exotic stereotypes that can be attached to Black and multicultural women? And like, what advice can you offer young girls about how to reclaim their sexuality, power, and confidence?
For me, one of the reasons that I was really excited to play Darla Dudley is because she's actually 8. And for me, I have come from, throughout my 20s, I was very much like that sexy girl, the love interest, the whatever it may be. And so breaking out of that space in my late 20s was really difficult. And what I learned was the fun thing is there's nothing wrong with owning your sexuality and wanting to be beautiful and sexy and strong and all those things. But also it's about, as she was saying earlier, humanizing whatever character you are now living and breathing and finding the things about them that are human and real that people can relate to, that are not just an idea of like, oh, that looks great and like that's awesome, but like, who is this person at the core that makes her not just relatable to other people, but especially as being Black women, relatable as a Black woman, because that experience is unique. No matter what the experience is as a woman, you're Black first, And so I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to owning a certain part of it and being happy because we are women. Why should we not lean into all of who we are, but also being able to lean into all of it and being proud of all of it and figuring out how that works for each character. And for me with Darla Dudley, that was like a dream come true because I pretty much am like size somewhere teeter between like 9 and like 50 something in everyday life. So it was nice to not lean into the sexuality at all and lean into the goofy side of me that really only my husband and like my close friends get to see all the time.
Now, firsts are important. And I think a lot of us here are firsts, seeing Black superheroes and people of color being superheroes, period. And women of color being superheroes. Nafisa, as half of the popular Anissa Grace couple on Black Lightning, what have you learned from our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQIA plus community? What's been the feedback? What's been the thing? I feel it when I play Garnet, which is a whole other character. But like, what's been the feedback? What's been the thing? Because that's something that is wide and broad, and you stand for something major here.
Thank you, and I'm really honored to play this role, the first Black lesbian superhero, right? Because when I think of that, I think about all the Black lesbians who have not been able to visually see themselves when they go to the cinema or they watch their favorite TV shows. And for me, it's one thing of knowing that there was a void for it, but when you're in that role and you're getting the feedback, you realize the importance of it and how much it's necessary and how much it's needed. And for me, the feedback that I once got, and I feel like Candace, I get emotional, and this is one that sticks out to me every time someone asks me this question, is I was at a Comic-Con and a young woman came up to me and she was full on tears and she said, I feel normal being a lesbian after seeing Thunder. So for me, my job is done. I feel like God has used me in that sense. As storytellers, I believe it's our purpose and it's our duty to tell stories that are important, especially for our culture. So that's the biggest reward of all, knowing that people are seeing themselves, little girls, when they see my character, they see themselves in the hood with cornrows. We didn't have superheroes who looked like us before.
Amazing.
So speaking of first, as the first Muslim superhero on television, Tala, how important is it for your role as Zari be authentic to your heritage?
It's really important. I think it's more important that it's kind of authentic to her heritage. Obviously, I bring myself to the role and what I am, which is an immigrant, which is an Iranian American. But when I heard she was going to be the first, and I say Muslim American because I think it's really important that we keep the American part of it, because it's so easy to otherize in these situations. And so when it was first Muslim American superhero, I felt the weight of that. And I think the really smart thing that my show did, which every show should do, is that when they hired me, they hired a Muslim American writer.
Wow, that's great.
Shout out to Oba Muhammad, who is a wonderful human and a wonderful writer. So when I heard Muslim American superhero, to bring it back around, I was like, we have to get this right. Representation matters so much. It's so important that little brown girls all over this, not just girls, all little brown children all over the world are seeing someone like me and being like, oh, that opens my mind, that opens possibility. But also people who, are in maybe parts of our country who will never be exposed to a Muslim American. If they can connect to the character, I feel like we've done our job, and that's just what we're trying to do. I
think it's great that you recognize that it's not just about little girls, because there are some, boys of color that are watching all of you that are feeling inspired because of the roles that you're playing. So, thank you to all of you for doing that, being great representation. So I want to throw a question out there. Anyone can answer. So which of your characters' superpowers would you like to have in real life to combat social injustice that's going on here today?
Yeah, everybody has to answer this one.
This isn't my This isn't my superpower, but I'm on a time travel show, so I have a lot of changes I'd love to make to history. There's a lot of dates. I could there's a date in 2016 in November. I'd go back there first.
Well, Corey can set people on fire, which sounds really violent and terrible, but
why not?
I did steal my husband's superpowers in one episode, and became the fastest woman on the planet. So I guess if I had super speed, I would clearly super speed a lot of people out of precarious police interactions.
So my character, Thunder's superpower is super strength. So I use my super strength to arrest the police officers who took the life of Breonna Taylor and countless others. That's all I'm really concerned about these days. So that's what I would use my strength for. As I'm using my personal strength to do it, I think Thunder's strength is a bit more intense than mine. So I definitely borrow her strength for that.
Yes.
I take from a different part of Blackfire. Has some issues with her family, and that means that she's had to spend a lot of time going inside and trying to figure out why she has those issues. And so that's the thing that I would take and I would give everybody right now. I'd give everybody the ability to go inside and truly ask yourself how we got here.
Yeah, I would use shape-shifting power to swap some people out of the office.
That's a good one.
We were talking about this, Batwoman doesn't necessarily have a superpower, but I do have the ability to put a mask on and do things that I feel other citizens are too scared to do based off of, it ruining their reputation or it putting their family in danger.
What does being a boss mean to you?
I think being a boss is making more bosses. I think that we have everybody on this call right now has to give it up for the people who came before us, who took the crap, who showed up every single day with the circumstances that they were handed. I don't think they get enough credit. The stunt people, the people behind the scenes who are editing us, the people whose names never get called when people are accepting their awards at award shows. We are here because of previous bosses, and now it's our obligation to reach down and make even more. It's like making sure that every move that I make, the algorithm is real when it comes to social media, and whether we like it or not, we have no idea who's following us or what it's showing up as. And the reality is they're taking what we do and they're mimicking it. So how do you want to be mimicked? And really, how do you want to show up if bossing is a thing that you want to be forever? So first of all, shout out to all the other bosses on this call. And
io comunque nel frattempo questi chiacchierano perché tanto non si dicono niente. Io volevo mettere questo.
I think it's going to surprise people.
You kind of sit there and go, how did they do that?
It's going to be different from any superhero movie ever made.
Oh, che ci devo aggiungere io? Sì.
There's no one better in the world to direct the Suicide Squad than James Gunn.
I was excited with an opportunity to be able to do the Suicide Squad in the way it could be done from my point of view.
This one is completely unique. This is a gritty 1970s war movie combined with the brilliance of James Gunn's characters and comedy.
You need your director to set the vibe.
The Suicide Squad is just a twisted fantasy of characters.
Eccoli. Un po'. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ingo Jäger per il follow, grazie caro, grazie. Grandissimo e benvenuto.
The Suicide Squad is just a twisted fantasy of characters.
Within each of our characters, there's a certain beauty. Within most of them. Some of them are just pretty crappy through and through.
Be like a douchey Captain America.
The guy who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he needs to kill along the way.
Okay, I got it.
Don't ever settle back like you think you know where this is going, because you don't.
As soon as you have some sense about what's about to happen next, James comes in.
Everyone's exploding. Genitals, heads, arms, legs.
It's like a big, massive graphic novel brought to life.
This is by far the biggest movie I've ever made.
I don't think that you know what to expect.
Don't get too attached.
This has been truly the greatest, most exciting journey of my life making this film. Cut, that was great.
Wow. Ci hanno messo di tutto. Ci ha messo tutto il suo ardore per fare questo film, che però non credo sia una serie, un film, non si è ancora capito. Una beta.
FanDome. One of my favorites is Batman. He's smart, successful, cool, crafty, and I don't know anyone who looks better in a mask. But I have to confess, I'm one of those guys who isn't really sure how one Bat can star in so many different stories and in so many ways. Comics, films, TV, games. Don't worry, I'll watch it all. But I can help think it takes some real world's greatest detective smarts to pull off a strategy like that. How do the folks at DC do it? Well, we're about to find out, because up next we have a panel dedicated to the legacy of Batman and the Bat family. From the Good Fight, please welcome actor and bona fide Batman blur, Nyambi Nyambi.
Nyambi Nyambi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Legacy of the Bat, the DC FanDome panel where we take a deep dive not just into Batman's history, but how he has created and inspired protégés that have grown into an extended Bat family. I'm Nyambi Nyambi, and I am pleased to introduce our esteemed panel
Della
of
famiglia di
Bat
Batman, dicendo, allargando un po' la storia, facendo capire
So
che
first off, much like the Cape Crusader himself, our first panelist is a legend in the comics industry, Jim Lee.
Hey, how you doing? Exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. She's the first person to pull Batwoman from the pages of the comics and bring her to life on your TV screens. And soon she'll be ushering an all-new vigilante crime fighter into the world. Please welcome the showrunner for television's Batwoman, Caroline Dries.
Hi.
Caroline. Yes. You've already seen the big announcement from this next panelist's new video game, Gotham Knights. So please welcome back the creative director for WB Games Montreal, Patrick Reddick.
Hey, how's it going?
Please, everyone, I want to welcome the legendary John Ridley.
Thank you.
Our next panelist portrays one of the most well-known longtime members of the Bat family. He pushed this character into a whole new light when he uttered just two little words. From Warner Brothers Television's Titans, it's Nightwing himself, Brenton Thwaites.
Hey guys.
Brenton, you are the first person to play a live-action version of Nightwing, but it's been a journey over the past 2 seasons of the show, and a pretty bold decision was made to kick off the show by having Robin say 2 little words, the now infamous Batman.
Dick Grayson is not just fighting crime, he's stepping over the line a little bit here. And the Batman was thrown in there to show that he is attempting to break away from Batman, and you know, he's kind of sick of fighting crime in Batman's shadow. And that's kind of what season 1 was about. And then at the end of season 2, obviously, he develops into Nightwing, which is a character that for me kind of symbolizes putting away his past and finally developing into this character that can lead and that has a moral compass and that can fight crime in the way that he truly believes.
And then having you know, a new Robin come into play with Jason Todd. What was that like to explore in terms of, you know, that relationship?
Jason Todd is a rebellious character who doesn't have the same respect for authority that, let's say, Dick Grayson has. And I think Dick Grayson tries to mentor him and tries to offer up that open channel should Jason want it. And, you know, I think that he watches Jason make a few mistakes and tries to step in, and Jason doesn't want that.
So, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd were both mentored by Batman, but there's another member of the Bat family with a different origin. I'm speaking, of course, about Batwoman, because Batwoman's not a sidekick. She never was a sidekick. She entered the Bat family a fully realized superhero, right?
I think the fun that we had with season 1 is Kate, you know, finding her way into being a superhero. It's all about the learning curve. And then it's the moral responsibility of learning, like, how do I deal with this and how do I best represent the Bat legacy? So it was really just about her arc into becoming the superhero.
It's a very personal story in terms of what Kate Kane is going through. Why was that story so special for you?
So my opportunity as a writer was to say, how do we represent Batman through the eyes of a woman, and in this case, through the eyes of a lesbian woman. And part of her growth was realizing, as Kate, I am a lesbian and I'm open and out and comfortable, but there's this irony in, I put on this costume and I automatically hide that thing that makes me so unique. I think an important story that we tell this season is that Batwoman literally comes out of the closet so that people see not just Kate Kane, who's a cool badass CEO, cool girl. I want to see the superhero that I'm looking up to on the rooftop and saying, oh, that is somebody I could be someday.
You're now poised to break even more ground in season 2 with the first Black actress to ever play Batwoman, which is huge.
It's huge. It's awesome. Kate Kane has disappeared in season 2, And it was controversial to the fans because, of course, they love Kate Kane, and so, of course, we're going to keep her part of the show. But it also gave us this really unique opportunity to create a new Batwoman. And I decided to make up a character named Ryan Wilder, who is the opposite of Kate Kane. Ryan Wilder is a character that Batwoman needs to protect. And so it just really provided a new rich storytelling device for us, and we couldn't be happier to have our new Batwoman.
And as a special bonus treat, she just said it, we have Ryan Wilder herself, the new Batwoman, with us here today. Please welcome Javicia Leslie.
Yeah.
Hey, and how does it feel to be the new face of Batwoman?
I found out an hour before everybody else found out. So I was pretty shocked along with the entire world. And then I was like looking through some of the articles, and one of the publications put Javicia Leslie is breaking history by being the first Black woman to play Batwoman. And then it changed for me.
You know, reading, the comics and seeing these superheroes as a Black man, I wouldn't see him as a white guy. I would just see him as Batman. And so then it allowed me to then imagine myself as Batman. So then for the world to actually see someone playing Batwoman, it's such a huge thing to me, because I feel like it lets people know that any of us can step into the shoes.
What I love about DC, what I love about WB, what I love about Berlanti is that you have these iconic characters, and they've done this amazing job making them so many different ethnicities and shapes and sizes and things that weren't as typical as you may have imagined when you were a kid and seeing them. And what DC has done, what WB has done, what Berlanti has done is they've showed us that you could be anything, no matter what the color of your skin is.
Now, how do you see this incarnation of Batwoman fitting into the full legacy of the Bat?
Well, at first, she doesn't fit. That's the story. She doesn't fit. Literally, she makes it fit her. And in making it fit her, she makes the Bat accessible to this whole other world of people who normally might not have had a hero to look up to. And so she, puts her stamp on the legacy.
All right, Jim. Okay, you've been doing this for a few years, right?
Yes.
Right? For a few years.
Yeah.
You've been around the block.
Yes.
How many times do you think you've drawn Batman?
I've been at DC since 1998. So I figure I've drawn, 22 years? So at least 22 times, but I think no more than 10,000. So somewhere kind of in between the two, yeah.
So what is it about Batman to you that makes his legacy such a lasting one?
At the core of it, he's the ultimate underdog, right? He's in a world with all these crazy characters with amazing powers, and all he has is his wealth and his smarts and his ambition and sort of obsessive need for justice. So I think we can all relate to him because he's very human in that respect. And I think he also really has something for everyone.
What's also dope about, growing up with Batman is actually growing up with Robin, and how Robin has sort of grown into his own person, becoming Nightwing. Talk about that growth.
The introduction of Robin really kind of changed the tone of the character, from a brooding loner. Now he has this responsibility to a young ward that he's mentoring. It makes him more human and is a path to redemption for himself, right? To find his humanity. It was kind of an important turning point in the character, and has led to this extended Batman family that you see. So we're super excited to announce that we have acclaimed writer John Ridley coming on board. In January of 21, John will be working with artist Nick Darrington, who's fantastic. I'd love to hear from John kind of what led him to this character and how he's going to approach it.
A big part of my life has been around Batman, has been around people who choose to do better. And even if some of that is just wish fulfillment, it is part of what we want our young people, kids to believe in, that everybody can be part of the process. And for a long time, as was said, for those of us who are outside of the prevailing culture, it didn't matter the race of Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman. We just identified with the idea of trying to be the fabric of an environment that was better. I think it's a pretty safe bet that if I'm writing Batman, it's probably a little better than a 47% chance he's going to be a person of color. That's what I would say. What's very exciting for me is that I'm going to have the opportunity to delve into the Fox family. So you have Lucius Fox, this character who has been, other than Alfred, probably the person who's been at Batman's side maybe the longest. But he has a family, and this is a family that has secrets, has kept secrets from one another. It's a little bit different dynamic than the Batman that we've always seen.
So everyone loves Batman. He has millions of fans. He has inspired one of the most badass entourages since the OK Corral. And yet there is one amongst us, I see him smiling already, working on a game where Batman is actually dead.
We wanted to take away any certainty, any feeling of safety, so we could take a Gotham City, where Bruce Wayne has been operating as Batman for like 15 years, with all that history, with his whole network of allies, and then take him out of the picture. It really demands players figure out, how would I step up?
Bello però
and how would I
misterente,
protect
però
Gotham City?
parlano troppo.
Let's take a quick look at what's coming out of WB Games Montreal next year.
If you're watching this, I'm dead. We both know it won't take long for Gotham's criminals to realize that Batman is gone. Gotham will need its protectors more than ever.
Okay, so before we wrap up, we have a fan question brought to you by one of Gotham City's good neighbors, Jake from State Farm. Yeah, we all know Jake from State Farm. Take it away, Jake.
Jim Lee, hello, 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 hello. Wow, I'm a huge fan, and I love your work. I mean, obviously. Okay, let's get to it. So, James from the US asks, when you first started drawing Batman, what or who were your inspirations for your design for that character?
For those of you that collect comics, I think one of my main influences is an artist named Neil Adams. He just brought this, sense of reality, fancy word, verisimilitude to his art. I just looked like it was real, like you go out and touch it. This is before there were movies and TV shows, so this is as good as it got for us. But then there was another artist later, Frank Miller, who, I was in college, and Dark Knight Returns came out, and that was real. That changed my life. I mean, that was the story that kind of inspired me to pursue a career in comics. So when I drew my own story in Hush, I actually started out drawing Batman kind of thick and blocky, kind of like how Frank draws it, kind of homage to Dick Sprang, which was an artist from yesteryear. But then as I drew more and more of the character over the course of the year and a half I worked on that project, by the end it was kind of leaner and looked more like a Neil Adams physique. Those are my two influences.
Clearly, we're all big Batman fans here, right? We're all big Batman fans here. That's why we're here. I'm a fan too. This is one of my many statues that I have here. So I have a fan question for all of you. What would you say is your first memory of Batman?
Obviously, Eartha Kitt was a huge influence because she was the first Catwoman, and to see that role and to see her really be her, because that's her personality in general, it really brought like this sexiness to something that was, to me, originally when I was a kid, I felt like it was a boy's world. Then The Dark Knight came out, and that's when I was insanely addicted to the world of my craft, my art, and to see Heath Ledger and all these iconic actors play these iconic characters is when I became obsessed.
I gotta say, I'm with Javis here. As a kid, I knew of the world and was a fan of Batman, but it was really the Batman Begins, Nolan's Batman, that really, as an actor, threw me into the world.
I agree. I think that was the first time I saw a superhero movie where I was just expecting it to be a superhero movie, and it was about a character, and it was that, Batman Begins, just how did this boy become this vigilante?
I watched the Adam West TV show as a kid. I remember spending hours playing with the Batmobile and shooting little pellets out of the mortar in the back, and that's kind of my history of the character.
John.
It was a world's finest two-parter from years ago. It was Batman and Superman, who were captured and put into a Soviet gulag in like Siberia. Everything about it was so painful and torturous and grounded, but at the same time it's about people being heroic. when the odds are completely against you.
Patrick Redding.
I think for me, what hit me the hardest was Batman Year One. That struck me the most and made me really fall in love with that character in that world.
Thank you all. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to stick around, and we hope you are enjoying DC FanDome.
So many amazing world-changing things coming down the Bat Tunnel. But if you can't get enough of the Bat, don't worry, we've got more Bat-related news, never before seen content, and director Matt Reeves all right here in the DC FanDome. And it's all coming your way, so stay with us.
11 di mattina, quindi figurate. 8, 9, 10, 11, mezzanotte e l'una già sono 6 ore. Season 2, Diego, Brazil.
There's
Diego.
little bits of Batman stuff that is coming in I don't want to talk about because, you know, that stuff is best left as a surprise, and those who get it, and those who don't. But the big Batman mythology character that is coming, that we're going to meet this season, is Lucius Fox, which is very exciting. Not cast yet, so can't say who's going to play it, but he comes in mid-season and comes in a big way and is pivotal in turning the story around.
E vai con l'Immo. Questo sketch. Bambini. Che cosa hanno voluto.
That Wonder Woman.
Cosa vogliono
She's not
insegnare?
got much clothes on, has she? Do you like my new shoes? They're kind of... Well, I don't know, I just like them. My mum likes them, and I like them. We both like them. I can fight the wind. I can
Ma guarda che
push
collo
the wind
che
away.
hanno fatto a Batman. Cioè Robin è più.
You have to be like sly and like never trusting anyone and kind of really like on the ball.
Così. Sketch rapido e dolore.
We're all working from home, and for the most part, when it comes to the pre-production, the script writing, the storyboards, design work, we've successfully transitioned to working at home. It's, you know, not quite as much fun to not be in the office and have everyone together, but we're doing it. That's not a problem. The thing that's been tough, as these guys have indicated, is voice recording, where, you know, we used to record everyone together as much as possible in a room for the first 3 seasons. Every once in a while, there was someone who couldn't make a session, and we had to pick up later. But for the most part, we bring everyone together, at least in small groups, if not the whole cast. And that obviously has changed. Everyone is mostly recording one at a time from their closets.
Or their son's lower bunk bed that has like sheets and pillows, and yeah, it's interesting.
FanDome. Dai, che dobbiamo vedere.
Next up, we have a special musical performance by Grammy-nominated multi-platinum recording artist Chris Daughtry. Inspired by the Man of Steel himself, the song was the lead single from Daughtry's 2013 album, Baptized. And we're so glad to have him here to perform this today. This is Waiting for Superman.
E quindi adesso si parla di Superman.
This is called Waiting for Superman.
Guarda, Deadpool alla Batman. Che roba. uno di quelli che fa le colonne. Poi che cosa sta bevendo lì? Sono curiosissimo. Sarà un
digging DC FanDome, please check out our live from home version of our latest single, World on Fire. Hope you dig it.
Ci stiamo a far sentire. Così insomma, tutto quanto la. Io passerei più che altro perché poi ci stanno i copyright qua quando lo pubblico, questi suonano, non puoi monetizzare, ma chi vuole monetizzare niente, però io magari me lo ripubblico. fatta tutta adesso, eh?
I just love how the DC fandom is connecting fans from across the globe. We are all so different, but today we all have one thing in common: our love for DC superheroes. Okay, turning things over to Clara. Clara, take it away.
Thanks, Damian. It's Clara here from the UK, and it is great to be here with all of you. And what an amazing show so far. Are you guys having fun? I know you are, but do make sure you tweet us using the hashtag DCFandom and let us know how we're doing. Now, when I think about our beloved DC superheroes, I think about how inspirational they all are. I'm talking Superman, Wonder Woman, all of them I love. Look, you can see they always put a massive smile on my face.
Manca Joker, ovviamente. E pure i Highline. Allora, farti vedere. Poco niente.
This is gonna hurt.
The world is full of monsters, and the only way to defeat them is to become one yourself.
Oh, I love it! The chaos is so invigorating!
Now, we should have known those guys wouldn't take a day off from all the mischief and all the mayhem. And let's just be honest, no one loves the spotlight more than a DC supervillain. So it looks like it's time for the Hall of Heroes to become the Hall of Villains. And personally, I'm all for it because DC has got the best. The Joker, who has undergone many iterations since his debut in 1940. And although I wouldn't want him plotting against me, I have to say, his choice in lipstick is pretty much perfect. So let's put a smile on our faces and have an in-depth look at one of the best baddies ever. Here's the Joker.
You can call me Joker.
The Joker is the greatest supervillain ever created.
I was a fan of the comic books, and particularly of the Joker.
Biblical time, David and Goliath to Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. I thought the stronger the villain, the stronger the hero. The Joker sprang into mind because cards were a big part of my family.
It is that carnival mask of a clown that hides the horror lurking just below the surface.
The Joker is a horrific version of Batman. Whereas Batman scares criminals, Joker scares the ordinary people.
In the 1950s, you have a censorship movement which leads to the Comics Code Authority, which really is why all characters in the 1950s get goofy and weird.
The writers and artists of the era felt very restricted. It was a dark time for America. There was an urgent need for heroes.
1966's Batman became a pop art campy comedy. Cesar Romero's playful, prank-loving Joker stole the show. As culture took a turn for the revolutionary, writer Denny O'Neil introduced the idea that the Joker was truly insane.
We undid 15, 20 years of lousy comics code. So you got a tremendous amount of experimenting.
It left the way for people like me and Alan Moore to do stories that were beyond the understanding of an 8-year-old.
Batman, the Killing Joke, showed us how deep the Joker's depravity could go.
It's basically a horror story. The Killing Joke was the first time that anybody really started taking him deadly serious.
It's epic. It's Joker's magnum opus.
The Joker stories of the 1980s set the stage for a Joker that would twist the theatrical, colorful with the violence and insanity.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker, that was just everybody's first choice. It goes beyond your expectations just because he's so good.
Even in my own life, people have said, sometimes, Jack, relax with the humor.
Oh, I got a live one here.
This does not apply to the Joker.
Gotham City was brought to younger audiences in 1992 when Batman, the animated series, debuted on Fox Kids.
One of the things that informs the Joker is his laugh. His laugh should be like a musical instrument. It should illustrate his mood.
We struck a nice balance between the clown and the killer and really made him a scary character.
Filmmaker Christopher Nolan elevated the comic book film. The gritty, realistic Batman of this Gotham City called for a villain who could challenge him in a way no one else could. From the outset, the choice was clear.
To me, it was creating a sort of psychologically credible anarchist, a purposeless criminal, a psychopath. To me, that is the most frightening form of evil.
It's somebody without any rules whatsoever. Somebody whose motive is just pure destruction.
Without Batman, I'm not sure that the Joker would exist in the way that he does in our movie.
You complete me.
Joker is one of those rare opportunities you get to reinterpret, bring back to life some character that provides some counterpoint to the good of the world.
The trick was to be incredibly respectful, yet at the same time, reinvent the Joker.
Audiences were in for a laugh when comedian Zach Galifianakis voiced the clown prince of crime, bringing his own brand of humor to the role and new meaning to the words, "You complete me."
They do depend on each other. And what would happen if they both took a step back and understood that to be the situation?
I hate you.
Me too.
The Joker had been taken in brave new directions, but there was still room to push the character even further.
I have never really thought about doing a comic book movie. For me, it was more about this idea of doing a film, but about somebody people have no idea who, what, where he came from.
It's a wonderful exploration to take probably the most famous villain. What happens if we humanize this person?
I think part of his transformation is finding his voice, finding Joker. And I think prior to the emergence of Joker, he's struggling with what it is that he wants to say, how he wants to say it.
Every kid loves this guy, and I particularly love just the name, Joker. It's fantastic.
There's no definitive Joker. He will be reinterpreted long after I'm gone because he's just such a great character.
Who knew the Joker had such a rich history? But hang on a minute, of course you guys did. You're all the experts. Now, Jim Lee is an expert in all things DC. He is a world-renowned comic book artist, writer, editor, and publisher, and he's got his eye on some supervillain art. Take a look.
Hello, everyone. This is Jim Lee again. I'm here with Mohammed Haq, and we are going over his fabulous submissions to the DC FanDome. He is a big Batman fan, and he has a day job. So he does this spectacular artwork in his spare time. And I'm just going to kind of give him some feedback and hopefully kind of encourage him to keep pushing himself, as we should all push ourselves as we try to become and strive to become better artists. And you are here in the U.S.?
California, LA.
Okay, that's part of the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's all good. All right, so you're super close to, because I'm in LA too. First off, let me just say thank you very much for submitting your work to DC FanDome. I loved all your single piece illustrations. Is this something that you're doing now professionally? Can you talk a little bit about your work, and do you do panel-to-panel work too, or is it all just